Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 61, Sui Takes Action. Before this clownish demon stood a figure, blocking his path. It was Sui's shadow clone. Hello, I'm Laplas. You've been blocking my way for so long, can't you say something? Laplas made a series of clownish gestures, but Sui still didn't seem inclined to pay him any attention. Wow, is this Oni brother waiting for something? Is this one of your skills? Sui's shadow clone maintained a crossed arms pose, not wanting to engage with this scatterbrained fellow. Don't be so cold. Oni brother, I know you're waiting for your real body to arrive. I'll just wait then. The grating voice continued. Laplas didn't give up on his clownish banter, circling Sui's shadow clone. Oh my, Oni brother, don't be so indifferent. I think you're quite strong. Have you considered serving a demon lord? A demon lord, mind you. ... How annoying. Veins popped on the forehead of Sui's shadow clone. He knew that the clone's sensations were transmitted to his main body. This guy is too verbose. And what's with all the clownish gestures? At that moment, Sui's clone finally moved, looking up in one direction, sensing something. Oh, your main body has arrived. Seeing the clone finally move, Laplas guessed what was happening. Following the clone's gaze, a tall, cool figure slowly emerged from the shadows ahead. What surprised Laplas was that the main body had a small blue fairy on his shoulder. Laplas couldn't sense any magical fluctuations from the little fairy, he thought it was just the Ona's mascot. Return, Sui said softly to the clone, which immediately turned into a shadow and merged into his body. Hello, sir, you're the Oni who has been following me these past few days. Seeing the main body, Laplas seemed genuinely happy and took the initiative to speak. Noisy. Sui ignored the clownish demon, spitting out two words coldly. Laplas was momentarily embarrassed, unsure of what to say next. Could this Oni brother be from the Great Oni village? But I don't remember any high-rank Oni existing in the Great Oni village. Laplas's mention of the Great Oni village only made Sui's expression turn murderous. You're seeking death. Wasn't the Great Oni village destroyed by you and the Pighead tribe together? Laplas said nonchalantly. This world is a jungle where the strong prey on the weak, and I wasn't the one who destroyed your village. Laplas was a little surprised that this Oni was actually from the Great Oni village. He had many questions in his mind. He had heard from another companion that the 10,000 troops they had taken to destroy the Great Oni village had not returned. Laplas had seen the terrifying scene firsthand. The Great Oni village had become a frozen hell. The Great Oni village was indeed destroyed, but the 10,000 Pighead tribe members were also permanently frozen there, devoid of life. He had only taken a quick glance before hurriedly leaving. The scene was simply too terrifying. Laplas now suspected that this Oni, Sui, was the mastermind behind that scene. He had to be cautious. Laplas had been waiting here to see who this unknown powerhouse was. And the result was Sui and a little fairy. Sir, could you tell me? Sui didn't want to hear Laplas's nonsense anymore. He abandoned his usual calmness. Thread control, activate. Sui raised his hand, and strands of white, wire-like threads tightly wrapped around Laplas's body, even around his neck several times. The threads tightened, and the clothes on Laplas's body were torn into strips. Be buried with my dead clansman. Sui hooked a taut thread with his finger, and the wrapped threads contracted and tightened. But Laplas showed no reaction, instead looking at the cold Sui with a smile. Apart from his clothes being torn, not a single drop of blood seeped from his skin. Your attacks can't hurt me. Laplas waved his hand, and the wire-like threads were directly cut off. Swish, swish. Sui's expression changed slightly. What kind of body was this that even his wire cutting couldn't harm? Granstar looked at the uncharacteristically agitated Sui and sighed inwardly. He knew there was a difference in magical power between the two sides. Let Sui vent his emotions. The death of his clansman must be a kind of pain for him. Granstar wasn't worried about Sui's safety. After all, he was here. Letting Sui unleash his combat potential was also a good thing. He directly flapped his transparent wings on his back and flew into the air, leaving the battlefield to the two of them. A thought transmission echoed in Sui's mind, prompting him to nod in the direction of Lord Granstar. Laplas stared suspiciously in Granstar's direction, muttering to himself. This Ona's attitude towards this little fairy is a bit like obedience. Could it be? Before Laplas could think further, several attacks came whistling towards him. Ice Blade, Shadow Clone. Sue's figure directly split into 12 shadow clones, surrounding Laplas and simultaneously activating the Ice Blade magic skill. This is Ice attribute magic. Could he really be? Laplas didn't take it lightly, directly spinning his body to knock away the incoming ice blades one by one. After blocking these skills, he still wanted to get close, but looking at the 12 shadow clones in front of him, he felt difficulty. Which one is the real one? Laplas's body flashed continuously, appearing behind these shadow clones, moving as fast as teleportation. Bang, bang. One of the attacks landed on Sue's body, sending him flying backward along the ground. But you're still so weak. Chapter 62, Extreme Cold Explosive Prison Formation. Lying on the ground, Sue couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, but his gaze remained fixed on Laplas's direction. Don't get cocky. Even Gulastan in the air frowned, looking at Laplas with a displeased expression. Laplas chuckled strangely and helplessly. With your current strength, you're still no match for me. Give it up. I don't want to fight you, I just want to know about that. Sue's eyes practically blazed with fire as he roared. Shut up. Laplas was taken aback by this angry shout. What he didn't know was that these words had deeply pierced Sue's heart. He was clearly stronger now than before. His enemy was right in front of him. A surge of ice blue magic power gathered within Sue's body, and a massive ice spear slowly formed before him. It's no use, I'm telling you. Your attacks can't even touch me. Laplas smiled playfully. Several ice shards flew towards Laplas like kunai, but he easily caught them with a few fingers. However, Laplas's smile soon vanished, as the hand holding the ice shards became stiff and unyielding. What is this? So, you've added ice poison. The palm had turned blue, the poison seeping into his skin, and the entire hand emanated a chilling aura. Laplas's expression turned extremely unpleasant. He quickly channeled his magic power, transforming his other hand into a hand blade, and slashed directly at the affected arm. With a shick sound. The cut was clean, without a single drop of blood seeping out. Laplas's arm fell directly to the ground, making a sound like ice colliding with the ground. It quickly shattered into pieces. A rare look of vigilance appeared on Laplas's face, though anger was clearly flashing in his eyes. You bastard! Before Laplas could regenerate his arm with self-regeneration, the massive ice spear came straight for his face. Startled, he quickly took out a weapon, a wooden staff, and rapidly waved it several times at the incoming ice spear. The massive ice spear instantly shattered into pieces, and an enraged voice rang out at the same time. You bastard, this time I'm really angry. I'll make you pay. Laplas hadn't expected that he, a seasoned veteran, would carelessly lose an arm to Sue, who had just become a Kijin. Self-repair activated. Green light flashed on Laplas's body, and the severed arm slowly grew back. An astonishing magical aura unfolded, causing the surrounding trees to rustle. What an amazing amount of magic power. Sue's pupils constricted slightly as he looked at the demon in front of him in disbelief. This magic power is probably already at the level of a demon lord seed. Gulastan looked at Sue with some concern, knowing that Sue had just been named and hadn't fully mastered his power. There was still some gap between his magic power and that of a demon lord seed. Die, you bastard! Laplas picked up the wooden staff and drew a slender longsword from it. With a flicker of his figure, he appeared directly behind Sue. Sue felt a chill on his neck, knowing that if he were struck by this attack, his head would likely be separated from his body. Shadow Move. Using the Shadow Move skill, Sue submerged his entire body into the darkness beneath his feet. As expected of Sue, he remains calm even at this time. Gulastan watched the battle, his small eyes gleaming slightly. Laplas was helpless against this skill, he couldn't lock onto the target and couldn't strike him. Shadow Move was a very buggy skill. HMPH. However, Sue didn't intend to hide forever and directly revealed his figure in the shadows not far away. Along with him, 8 shadow clones appeared, surrounding Laplas from 8 different directions. Is it that skill again? You've already tried it, it's useless. Laplas's disdainful voice rang out. Sue ignored Laplas's taunts, and the 8 shadow clones simultaneously placed their hands on the ground. Streams of astonishing ice blue magic power were injected into the ground. What is this skill? Laplas was a little puzzled, but as soon as he tried to move, he felt his feet frozen to the spot, unable to move. When did this happen? Laplas's expression was one of horror. A giant ice blue magic circle was slowly forming beneath Laplas's feet, exuding an aura of despair. What kind of skill is this again? Laplas looked incredulously at the 8 shadow clones of Sue around him. Finally, when all of Sue's magic power had been injected into the magic circle, a faint, cold voice rang out at this moment. Extreme Frost Blast Prisoner A. Even Gulastan in the air looked at Sue in surprise, he had already mastered this skill. Boom! The ice-blue torrent of frost directly engulfed Laplas's body, and the surrounding trees were instantly overturned. The surrounding temperature dropped again and again, and ice shards danced wildly in the wind. The power of this ice blast directly created a meteorite-like crater at the center of the explosion. After a long time, cough cough, I didn't expect it, I really didn't expect that I would die once. To think that was my life-saving skill, you really deserve to die. A faint voice came from the depths of the ice blast crater. Hearing this familiar voice, Sue's pupils constricted slightly. He didn't die even from that. Just then, Laplas's figure shot out, his eyes radiating a scarlet killing intent. Now you can die, right? Sue could only watch helplessly as Laplas's longsword came slashing towards his face. Even so, he remained cold and composed, without a trace of change on his face. Clang! Laplas's eyes immediately became terrified, because a small fairy had gently caught his thin sword with a little finger right in front of him. How is this possible? This is my fatal strike. An icy voice rang out at this moment. Hey, what are you doing to my cute subordinate? Laplas. Gulastan covered his hand with a layer of ice armor and partial armament, gently catching Laplas's fatal strike with his hand. Laplas could only withdraw his longsword and quickly retreat, looking at the disheveled little fairy with a wary gaze. Gulastan temporarily ignored the battered man in front of him and turned his head to look at Sue with a concerned expression. What? Did you run out of magic power? Seeing Gulastan's concerned gaze, Sue instead lowered his head in shame. Lord, I have disappointed you again. Gulastan immediately looked at the rigid guy in front of him with a headache. You're already very fierce, you know. If that guy didn't have a life-saving skill, you might have really killed him. Gulastan patted Sue on the shoulder with his small hand, brushing off a few ice shards from his shoulder. Chapter 63 Personal Action. Granstar gently flapped his wings, brushing the ice shards off Tsuyoshi shoulders. Then, Granstar slowly turned around, his eyes as cold as icy stars, staring intently at Laplas. In an instant, the surrounding air seemed to freeze, and the temperature became erratic again. A powerful magical pressure suddenly descended, making it increasingly difficult for everyone to breathe, and snowflakes fluttered down. Faced with such a sudden change, Laplas was filled with surprise and suspicion. Who exactly are you? Could it be, are you his master? As he spoke, he hurriedly restrained his own demon lord-level terrifying magic power and loudly questioned the floating little spirit in front of him. Granstar, hearing this, simply snorted coldly. Immediately afterward, he slowly flew closer to Laplas. The person opposite him looked at the delicate and cute Shota face, and for a moment, he was completely baffled, only able to watch Granstar approach him. Finally, Granstar arrived in front of Laplas, and he slowly extended a delicate hand. Paw! Bang! A crisp and loud slap suddenly rang out, followed by a dull thud. A delicate and petite hand mercilessly slapped him on the cheek, the force of which sent him flying backward like a cannonball. Laplas's eyes were filled with stars, and his mind went blank. This sudden attack was too swift, leaving him no time to react. Tsuyoshi, witnessing the entire process, twitched the corner of his mouth slightly. This is too brutal. He saw that small hand swing out at an astonishing speed, and then accurately land on Laplas's face. HMPH, bullying my cute subordinate deserves this. The little spirit's tone carried a hint of childish ferocity, yet also revealed a chilling majesty. Granstar's bright, large eyes coldly stared at Laplas lying on the ground, his eyes full of disdain and anger. Laplas muttered to himself as he struggled to get up from the ground. His body swayed, appearing extremely disheveled. One hand tightly covered half of his face, but blood still flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. He seemed to want to say something to justify himself, but he swallowed the words back down. Laplas's heart was also filled with anger at this moment, his eyes bloodshot. Just then, a shocking magical aura suddenly erupted. This powerful force instantly swept through the surroundings, and the entire world seemed to be dyed with a layer of dark blue, falling into deathly silence. Open black lens bracket extreme cold domain close black lens bracket. As a low shout rang out, a slender figure wearing a flawless blue robe slowly descended as if from the sky, in Laplas's astonished gaze. When his gaze met those cold and domineering eyes, a bone-chilling cold surged into his heart, making his whole person feel like he had fallen into an ice cellar, and even his soul was almost frozen. This is impossible, how could your magic power possibly? Laplas's pupils shrank violently as he stared fixedly at Granstar, his eyes filled with disbelief and shock. At this moment, Granstar was emitting a palpitating aura, as if the entire space was enveloped by his magic power. Now, let's have a one-on-one match, Laplas. I know your strength is more than this, let me see your true self. Granstar's voice, like a clear spring, echoed in Laplas's mind. Hearing this, Laplas felt a burst of bitterness in his heart. What is this talk of one-on-one? There's clearly a strange Oni beside him, watching him with a menacing gaze. Where is this a fair duel? What made him even more astonished was that the Oni was actually drinking potions in front of him to restore his magic power. I don't know what this elf is talking about, and you just saw my strength. Laplas wasn't quite sure what Granstar meant by what he just said. Granstar's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing Laplas's words. Seeing the change in expression on the face of this high elf, beads of sweat couldn't help but appear on Laplas's forehead. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva secretly. After a moment. It seems you really don't remember anything, Laplas, what a pity. But if I kill you, what level of material will I get? Granstar gently shook his head, a trace of regret revealed in his eyes, but immediately afterward, his palm began to flicker with a cold magical light. In the blink of an eye, a dazzling ice crystal flower quietly bloomed in his hand. Open black lens bracket ice flower close black lens bracket. Granstar whispered softly, his voice seemingly carrying a trace of chill. This ice crystal flower was crystal clear, each petal shining with a unique brilliance, beautiful and mesmerizing, making people unable to extricate themselves. However, often the more beautiful things are, the more deadly they are. This sentence is perfect to describe the open black lens bracket ice flower close black lens bracket in front of him. Your Excellency, I didn't know there was a high elf in the forest before, and you should have heard of Demon Lord Clayman's prestige. Seeing that the other party was about to attack, especially the open black lens bracket ice flower close black lens bracket in Granstar's hand, made one of his eyes constantly send out warning signals. He also brought out the Demon Lord who cooperated with him, but Granstar's face became even colder after hearing it. HMPH, even if Clayman himself comes, you're still getting this beating. Laplas's face immediately collapsed. The name of the Demon Lord was useless. Clayman, you're really not good enough, is your reputation too bad? You must know that in this world, the name of the Demon Lord is almost a taboo existence for the natives. An extremely dangerous ice crystal flower turned into fragments in the space between the two. The warning in Laplas's eyes became stronger and stronger, and finally, the magic power in his body surged wildly. Open black lens bracket trickster close black lens bracket activate. As if by magic, Laplas's body was stored in a box by himself. Boom! The entire ground shook, and all the magical beasts in this area felt an eroding cold current and continued to flee. Open black lens bracket ice flower close black lens bracket is a flower of destruction formed by constantly compressing the power of ice explosion, with frost erosion characteristics. Why is his vitality so tenacious? He's not dead yet. In his magical perception, Laplas's magical aura was still there. Granstar looked at Laplas's location in surprise. In case this guy had a sneak attack skill, he first used open black lens bracket ice armor close black lens bracket plus open black lens bracket full body armor close black lens bracket to form a layer of ice armor. Chapter 64, The Mediocre Clown Gang. Ice shards scattered across the ground like shattered jade, while the once intact ground was blasted into a large, broken pit. The surrounding trees had long since been uprooted and flung far away by the terrifying force of the ice explosion. This once peaceful and serene area was now completely unrecognizable, as if it had just suffered an icy cataclysm and endured undeserved hardship. If it's still alive, should I hit it with another attack like that? Granstar stared intently at the strange box before him, his eyes full of vigilance and doubt. Is this Laplas's special skill, trickster? Arbitrary transformation? He couldn't help but wonder if this was a trap set by Laplas, so Granstar muttered in a low voice. However, something unexpected happened. As if understanding Granstar's words, the strange box suddenly began to tremble violently, emitting a low buzzing sound. Then, a weak and slightly fearful voice came from inside the box. No, Your Excellency Elf, please stop what you're doing and hear me out. Your strength is so great, I have already deeply experienced it. Granstar raised his eyebrows and looked at the strange box with some surprise. Perhaps sensing that the aura of destruction outside had disappeared, the space inside the box became blurred for a moment, and a shadow appeared. Cough, did I not check the calendar before going out today? I almost lost 2 lives. Laplas coughed up a mouthful of blood. If he had been hit with another ice flower, Laplas would have had no choice but to flee, but he had to bring back some valuable information. However, what he didn't expect was that as soon as 8+ came out, an ice blue longsword was placed across his neck. Your Excellency Elf, you. Laplas gasped for breath, constantly looking at Granstar warily with his one exposed eye. Granstar ignored Laplas's dissatisfaction and moved the ice demon even closer to his neck. Immediately feeling a chill, Laplas didn't expect Granstar's vigilance to be so strong, so he had no choice but to raise his hands in surrender. With your Excellency Elf's strength, why would you appear in the Jura forest? Could it be that the elven race is also eyeing that legendary treasure? Faced with Laplas's doubts, Granstar also stared at the clown opposite him strangely. What treasure? Is there such a thing in the original story? Granstar still wanted to ask this guy first. First of all, let me state that although I am an elf, I am free. But well, I seem to be very interested in the treasure you just mentioned. As he spoke, the magic power in Granstar's other hand continued to gather, looking like he was about to handcraft a big dumpling again. The meaning of threat was self-evident. Laplas looked at Granstar with a surprised expression. What do you mean you are a free elf? I would be a fool if I believed you. Why are you even threatening me? Hey, let's talk nicely, I can actually reveal a little bit. As Laplas spoke, he also made a gesture with his fingers indicating that he could only say a little bit. Actually, that treasure is just a legend. Granstar was a little impatient listening. Get to the point. Laplas immediately felt the sharp longsword get a little closer to his throat. He hurriedly said, Okay, I'll say it, actually that treasure is a relic left by the legendary strongest hero. As for the rest, I really don't know. Granstar frowned even more deeply after hearing this. This was a little different from what he knew. When did the Jura forest have such a thing? Could it be that he encountered some side quest? Maybe they didn't find it in the original story in the end. I've said everything I need to say, can your Excellency put down this dangerous sword? Laplas wanted to move the sword away with his fingers, but his fingers were frozen as soon as they touched the sword. Granstar was brought back to reality by Laplas's actions, and found the restless guy a bit funny. Forget it, he wasn't interested in that thing anyway, and besides, could he really be lucky enough to find something that had never appeared in the original story? After a cold snort, Granstar retracted the ice demon longsword. Laplas secretly breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the other party put the sword away. His tone also became more lively. Hello, Your Excellency, it seems that you were the one who killed the tens of thousands of Pighead tribe soldiers in the great Goblin village before. Granstar saw that the other party was acting strange again. This Laplas really had a big heart. Laplas saw Granstar's silence and became even more certain of this. He constantly reminded himself in his heart that he must not offend this brutal master. Could it be that this person was sent by the Elf Queen? But doesn't that demon lord usually not care much about this kind of thing? But just then, Granstar's words rang in his mind again. You guys created the Pighead Emperor. I advise you to give up on this forest, even the demon lord can't have designs on this place. Don't think I don't dare to kill you right now. Seeming to sense Granstar's potential threat, Laplas smiled awkwardly and immediately passed the buck. Your Excellency, we are also acting under the instructions of the demon lord Clayman, we only have a bit of cooperation with him. Granstar's lips curled up slightly after hearing Laplas's words. If he didn't know the plot, he might have really been deceived by this guy. You guys only have a bit of cooperation with that guy Clayman. Granstar's tone became a little playful. Laplas felt a little strange but still said. Then how do I remember that the moderate clown troupe has a total of 5 members, besides the demon lord Kozalime who disappeared 200 years ago, let me think, there's Footman, Tyr. Oh and there's Clayman. Am I right, Vice President Laplas? Laplas's face was immediately filled with shock. Looking at Granstar's playful eyes, his body was constantly retreating. Who exactly are you? Why do you know our information? His voice began to become hoarse. Laplas's eyes stared fixedly at Granstar, a more violent aura than before spread out, his eyes were scarlet. String. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 65 Escape. Laplas's mind raced, trying to guess the origin of the elf before him. Although his killing intent was strong, Laplas wasn't brainless. But besides the few demon lords, who else would know so much about the members of their moderate clown troupe, and even know about Demon Lord Causaline? Their moderate clown troupe never liked standing in the spotlight, preferring to hide behind the scenes and quietly push forward conspiracies to achieve their goals. Very few people should know about us, but the person before me. Even though he went through all the Demon Lord level beings and their subordinates in his memory, the skills and aura didn't match up. Tisk tisk, your chairman, Demon Lord Causaline, has been gone for 200 years, but you've become so active recently. It's hard not to suspect that you've pledged allegiance to someone. But who could possibly order you around? Could it be, for your chairman? Granstar didn't care how ugly Laplas's face was, constantly watching his eyes, as if trying to see something. Upon hearing this, Laplas quickly extinguished the killing intent in his heart, becoming extremely nervous, his expression turning as silly as his clown mask. Oh dear, what's going on? Why is it so hot? Laplas immediately looked away from Granstar, fanning himself with his hand, his guilty appearance impossible to hide. It's snowing, where is it hot? Laplas wasn't hot on the surface, but he was very nervous inside. He felt that if he let this elf continue speaking, perhaps that'd matter. This person was too terrifying. He was very strong, but Laplas felt that he wasn't using his full strength. The key was that he had zero information about this person. Those ice blue pupils seemed to be able to see through the secrets in his heart. Haha, Laplas, that clown mask really suits you. Granstar simply smiled and didn't expose Laplas when he saw him playing dumb in front of him. As you say, sir. If my presence annoys you, I can disappear from your sight immediately. Laplas said with a smile, but secretly thought in his heart. The plan has changed. I have to go back and report to that lord immediately. With this person here, the previous plan seems to be ruined. I have to call my partners and retreat. Granstar looked at Laplas with a faint gaze, without saying a word. But he kept pondering whether to let this person go. If he completely offended the moderate clown troupe, Rimuru and the newly built town might not be able to withstand their revenge. His visit this time was originally to warn these behind-the-scenes people, and Laplas was connected to more than just one demon lord, but also that one. Granstar's magic gradually converged, his control so strong that he didn't leak a trace of magical aura. Phew. Laplas finally breathed a sigh of relief, but as soon as he relaxed, he heard Granstar say something lightly, and his hair stood on end again. It's not so easy for you to leave. If you can escape my attack. Remember to tell Clayman not to reach too far. Sir, this is too sudden, isn't it? Can I refuse? Laplas looked bitter. Granstar looked at Laplas with a kind face, slowly drawing out the Ice Fiend longsword. Before I attack, you still have a chance to escape. Upon hearing this, Laplas threw something directly on the ground. Bang! Red smoke immediately filled the area, and Laplas's figure gradually turned into a shadow and fled into the distance. In Granstar's magic perception and heat source detection, the shadow slipped away quickly, instantly fleeing hundreds of meters. HMPH. Granstar snorted coldly, tightly gripping the Ice Fiend longsword in his hand and swinging it towards the locked position. Open black lens bracket ice crack severance close black lens bracket. The surrounding space seemed to be torn apart, and a powerful cut turned into a blue light that flashed and disappeared. Time became silent. Slash. It seemed as if blood splattered, but the shadow's speed didn't decrease and continued to flee in one direction. Sue had been using magic to lock onto this clown demon, but as soon as the explosion smoke dissipated, the target was lost. He also saw the sword that Granstar swung, and Sue could see blood seeping out of the position where the blue light flashed. So he directly used Shadow Move to come to that position, simply checked around, and picked up something from the ground. Sue's figure blurred and disappeared, reappearing beside Granstar, holding a bloody arm in his hand. Granstar-sama, Granstar simply glanced at the arm in Sue's hand and withdrew his gaze. Sue, this person is not easy to kill, and he is involved in a great deal. Killing him would not benefit us much. Granstar didn't continue to say anything, but shrunk his body, turning into a small boy. Flying to Sue's shoulder. Let's go back and see how Rimuru's pre-war preparations are going. Sue directly threw the arm aside, and upon hearing Granstar-sama's explanation, didn't say anything more. His rigid and cold face was filled with everything based on the will of the Lord. Yes, Lord. Sue's figure gradually merged into the darkness, disappearing with the little elf on his shoulder. A fat demon wearing an angry clown mask stood high up, looking at the tide-like orc army below. Constantly marching towards one place, devouring all the monsters that stood in their way. Hee, yes, just devour all the way and ravage everything in the Jura forest. I can even feel the strong emotions of anger rising around me, haha. The angry masked clown demon hadn't been complacent for long before his body suddenly stiffened. A weak and hasty voice came from his mind. Open black lens bracket foeman, the plan has changed. Don't stay there, go back to the castle. Quickly, close black lens bracket. Foeman's expression changed again and again, becoming uneasy. What happened to Laplas? Why did he say the plan has changed? Retreat quickly. He thought for a while, trusting this big brother in the moderate clown troop, and glanced at the orc army that was still marching. The magic power on his body surged, and a magic teleportation hole formed under his feet, and his figure quickly disappeared into it. But it seems that, because these two unscrupulous demons left in a hurry, they didn't notify Kurumit, who was still in the forest. So, Chapter 66, The Eve of War. In the Goblin town, an atmosphere of solemnity permeated the air. Squadrons of Goblin cavalry stood in neat, uniform ranks, arrayed in straight formations. Each Goblin knight was clad in exquisite armor, wielding a sharp lance, looking formidable and awe-inspiring. Beneath them crouched massive frost wolves with fur as white as frost. These frost wolves exuded a chilling aura, sending shivers down one's spine. The usually goofy Gobuta had also shed his usual image. He stood at the front of the formation, a rare hint of seriousness on his face. The entire scene was solemn and silent, with only the howling of the cold wind bringing a chill. In the center of the plaza ahead, a towering ice platform stood out. Several figures were arranged on the ice platform, with the leader being none other than Benimaru. His eyes were sharp as an eagle's, exuding an unparalleled aura. Closely following behind him were Hakuro, Sue, Shion, and Shuna. Benimaru wore a crimson robe made of flamemoth silk, and behind him, he carried a long sword with an ice-blue scabbard. He stared intently at the ground below with his mismatched red and blue eyes. Everyone, next we may face the 200,000-strong orc army. For the sake of our two lords, are you afraid? Benimaru used magic on the last three words, and the huge sound slowly spread throughout the Goblin cavalry regiment below. Immediately, the goblins' faces turned excited, especially the warlike Rigyur, who took the lead in raising his weapon and shouting. We are not afraid. For the sake of our two lords, we will win this battle. Gobuta's face turned red, and he shouted excitedly. For the sake of our two lords, we will win this battle. The Goblin cavalry regiment shouted in unison. We will win this battle. Awoo, awoo. The frost wolves, not wanting to be outdone, raised their heads and responded with howls. Listening to the response from below, Benimaru's eyes immediately burst out with a strange color. Even Hakuro on the side watched this scene with a smile. And just not long ago, a small blue figure sneaked into the Goblin town, and also made a special investigation. Seeming to feel that the annoying figure had already left, he felt relieved. He was also afraid that his appearance would be seen by others, so he sped up and turned into a blue light and flew towards the ice sculpture castle. And did not choose to fly in from the gate, because there were 6 frost wolves guarding the gate of the ice sculpture castle. Instead, he carefully entered from a floor-to-ceiling window of an ice sculpture, but as soon as he flew in, a small snow-white hand grabbed his foot, and the small figure was immediately shocked. Who dared to grab my foot? Turning his head, he saw Rimaru's face with a smile that was not a smile. Hee, you, Granstar, betrayed your friends and sneaked out by yourself. You don't know that Miss Trainee has been pestering me for a long time, always asking me where you went. Haha, you didn't go through the gate, but you had to go through the window, now you've been caught by me. Rimaru's laughter at this moment was as proud as it could be, and he finally caught this guy once. This guy who likes to sneak out. Granstar immediately felt guilty when he saw that it was Rimaru. It's Rimaru, stop laughing, your face is crooked. Let me down quickly. When Rimaru heard this, he also let go of Granstar, and immediately condensed a stream of water to make a mirror to check if his face was crooked. No, Granstar, you actually lied to me. Rimaru's voice amplified a bit. Hee, don't forget that your body is made up of slime, if you are too excited, your face will really be crooked. Granstar said to Rimaru faintly. Rimaru really thought about it carefully. That makes sense. Great sage. Complaint. You don't use the super artificial intelligence, but believe the nonsense of this ice spirit. Then, Granstar also looked around the ice sculpture castle, and was relieved after there was no figure. Rimuru also saw Gransta's appearance, and said amusedly. I didn't expect that you, an ice spirit, would be afraid of a female tree spirit. Hehe, am I afraid? Rimuru, you don't know that she's about to stick to me, and she insists that I agree to take in her naughty sister. Gransta said to Rimuru with a look of lingering fear. I'm also annoyed by her, she insists that I take in her sister, didn't I just save her sister once? Gransta's face was even more helpless, and he spread his hands at the end. When Rimuru heard this, he became even more annoyed, and replied angrily. I heard from Miss Trainee that her sister, who was only born a few years ago, has been especially worshipping you since you saved her, and insists on seeing you. Miss Trainee just wants you to take her sister as a student and help discipline her, is it necessary to refuse so quickly? Isn't it good to have such a cute student? Are you so afraid? Looking at Rimuru's annoyed appearance, Granstar really hadn't experienced the pain of raising children. Cute. Even her sister can't control her, can I? Rimuru, you will understand the pain of raising children in the future. Huh. Rimuru looked at Granstar with some confusion, what did he mean by he would understand in the future? Isn't it good to have a cute student? Without dwelling on this topic for too long, they began to discuss serious matters. Granstar, this Benimaru does have a very high military talent, now he manages the army obediently, I listened to you and gave him the position of commander this time. Rimuru looked surprised when he mentioned Benimaru, it seemed that he was shocked by Benimaru's ability. Granstar also nodded, he had known for a long time that Benimaru had this talent, so he suggested that Benimaru be in charge of the command this time. As the saying goes, general against general, king against king. This is also an opportunity to test and improve their combat effectiveness. Rimuru agreed with Granstar's words very much. When the time comes, we will deal with the Orc Lord, and the 200,000 strong Orc army will be handed over to them. Granstar actually had an idea in his mind, it was not difficult to defeat the Orc Lord, he wanted to use this battle to show the strength of their fists to all the races in the Jura forest. Using strong strength to deter all races will be very beneficial to their upcoming founding of the country. By the way, I forgot to tell you something. Rimuru seemed to have remembered something and said to Granstar, who was in deep thought. Ice Guardian, tell me, he also wants to move his body this time. Oh. Granstar's positioning of the Ice Guardian is like his title, Guardian King. Since the Ice Guardian has said so, let him go out and move around, and the protection of the village will be entrusted to Rigurdo and others. Granstar and Rimuru looked at each other, and their mouths were slightly raised, as if they had imagined some scene. Chapter 67 The whole army is on the march. For the sake of you two, we will win this battle. We will win this battle. ... The voices drifted into the ice sculpture castle. Gulongstad and Rimuru turned their gazes towards the ice platform in the square outside. Hongmaru is really something, putting on this show before the battle. Everyone's enthusiasm is so high. Rimuru's expression was a bit helpless, but after all, they were facing an army of 200,000 pigheads, so he could understand Hongmaru's actions. Haha, Hongmaru did a pretty good job this time. Gulongstad looked at Hongmaru on the ice platform, a look of satisfaction on his face. He believed that after this battle, Hongmaru's name would spread throughout the Jura forest. Rimuru, it's our turn to appear now. They are all waiting for us. Gulongstad turned his head and said to Rimuru. Yeah. Rimuru directly summoned Ranga from his shadow, sat on Ranga's back, and darted out like lightning. Gulongstad used magic to create wings, and with a slight vibration, he transformed into a blue light. Hongmaru seemed to sense the approach of the two adults and looked in one direction. Two figures slowly appeared on the ice platform. When everyone saw the two adults appear, they watched with fiery and quiet gazes. At this moment, everyone quieted down. Seeing that the Goblin cavalry regiment below had quieted down, Gulongstad turned to look at Hongmaru beside him. Hongmaru, you did a good job. As a commander, you must work hard. He patted Hongmaru's shoulder. A look of excitement flashed in Hongmaru's heterochromatic eyes. He bowed to Gulongstad, and a breeze fuged Hongmaru's hair, revealing a handsome face. Thank you for your trust, adults. Hongmaru will definitely not let you down. Hongmaru looked at Gulongstad's back, making a secret resolution in his heart. Rimuru, it's your turn, the big boss, to say a few words. Gulongstad said to Rimuru with a serious face. Ah, me, isn't it you? Rimuru was a little surprised. When he stood here just now, he suddenly had the feeling of a gangster boss looking at his little brothers. Does he still have to say a few words? Looking at the fiery eyes of the goblins and frost wolves below, Rimuru couldn't refuse for a moment. Everyone, remember, this is our first battle. I only have one request for you, and that is to survive, so. Gulongstad knew that this kind-hearted guy, Rimuru, valued his partners more. But this time, with the Ice Guardians here, the casualties can almost be said to be zero. Rigurd below stood out from the formation and looked up at the two adults. Lord Rimuru, don't worry about us. We are very strong. Gobuta also smiled silly. That's right. I am a man who has been trained by that hateful old man. Let them taste my swordsmanship. But as soon as Gobuta finished speaking, a pair of scarlet eyes lit up behind him. Old man. Hee, Gobuta kid, that's really a lovely name. Gobuta felt locked by a familiar killing intent and turned his head with difficulty. Stinky old man, when did you appear behind me? Ah. Gobuta's scream resounded. Rimuru looked at this interesting teacher-student relationship, and the little worry in his heart disappeared. Gulongstad, Hikuro seems to be very worried about Gobuta. He even has to train him before the battle. Hongmaru also smiled bitterly, looking at the two people fighting below. These two were too presumptuous, but fortunately, the two adults didn't care. Gulongstad glanced below and shook his head. He had handed over the position of army instructor to Hikuro. He did not know how many goblins were brutally trained by Hikuro. Rimuru, I'm going to wake up the ice guards. Then we can march towards our destination. Rimuru nodded after hearing this. Gulongstad's figure disappeared directly, and he reappeared on a large snow mountain. It can be said that this entire snow mountain is the body of the ice guards, and Gulongstad is facing the head position. The ice guards seemed to sense the aura of their master. The snow mountain stones rolled, and two huge eyes lit up. Master. The deep voice echoed constantly. Ice guards, I have received your request. I allow you to participate in this operation. Gulongstad looked at his first subordinate, who had been guarding the village. It was time to let him move around. Hearing Gulongstad's words, the entire snow mountain began to vibrate. Hongmaru and the others noticed the movement here and all turned their attention over. Could it be that the adults planned too? 100 Jiang tall giant slowly stood up and knelt on one knee to Gulongstad. Thank you for the master's consent. With the ice guards here, we can protect one side. We will win this battle. The huge voice rumbled like thunder. Gulongstad instead landed on the ice guard's head. Rimuru, bring everyone to the ice guard's body. Let him take us there. Gulongstad's voice came from Rimuru's mind. Looking at the 100-meter-tall giant, his face was also filled with joy. Hongmaru, order the entire army to march. Everyone, follow me onto the ice guard's shoulders. Rimuru turned over and got on Ronga's back. Ronga took a stride and flew directly onto the ice guard's shoulder. Hongmaru heard Lord Rimuru's order and did not dare to neglect it. He directly commanded the goblin cavalry. Hundreds of goblins turned over and got on the frost wolves. They ran neatly and orderly on the ground, like a white torrent. The ice guard's shoulder was like a square composed of ice and rock. Hundreds of goblin cavalry stood on it, not crowded at all. At the entrance of the village, Rigurd led a group of people, looking up into the distance, and shouted to the ice guards above. You two adults, you will definitely be able to defeat the Orc Lord. Please rest assured, we will protect the village. Rigurd also showed off the muscles bulging on his body. Rimuru also heard Rigurd's words. He still trusted this prime minister of the country he had identified. He waved to the crowd below. Rigurd, I'll leave the village to you. Seeing that everyone was ready, Gulongstad gave the order to the ice guards. Ice guards, let's go. The target is the Lizardman tribe. Yes. As the ice guard's giant body stepped out, a layer of ice crystals immediately condensed on the ground it left. The earth trembled, and from a distance, one could see 100 Jiang tall ice giant running wildly in the forest, leaving a long path of ice crystals. A terrifying aura came from the ice giant, and the surrounding monsters were frightened out of their wits. In a tree in the forest, a little girl covered her mouth and looked at the running giant in surprise. Two sisters, what kind of monster is this? The aura is so terrifying. Tori and another twin dryad also looked at this scene in surprise. The one above is Lord Gulongstad. Chapter 68, Planning to Seize Power. Report, Chief. The Hobgoblin army has already begun its attack. Please issue instructions. The Lizardman chief's aged face was filled with surprise, his eyes wide. Only half a day has passed, how could they be so fast? Don't they need to rest? The head guard reminded the Lizardman chief. Father, don't forget that they have all been affected by the Hobgoblin Lord's starvation, constantly in a state of hunger. I'm afraid they already see us as their food. The head guard's voice even trembled slightly. The Lizardman chief, upon hearing his head guard's reminder, also realized the situation, but his brow furrowed even deeper. Before the Lizardman chief could ponder for a moment, another Lizardman soldier came in to report. "It's bad, chief. They have sent out 10,000 hobgoblin soldiers as a probing attack, and our tribe has already suffered casualties." "What?" The Lizardman chief stood up from his position. Their tribe had over 10,000 warriors, how could they suffer casualties so quickly against only 10,000 hobgoblins? This was the wetlands, after all, they had a natural home field advantage. However, this Lizardman soldier had even more detailed information. "Chief, these hobgoblins all have C-rank strength, and several of them even have B-rank strength. Our tribesmen were killed by these B-rank hobgoblins." After saying these words, he silently lowered his head. Several B-rank hobgoblins. He knew that even the most elite warriors of their tribe were only B-rank, but why had the hobgoblins, originally D-rank monsters, grown so quickly? The Lizardman chief knew that he couldn't delay any longer, he had to issue instructions immediately. He composed his face, restoring a serious expression. He knew that he, as the nominal chief, couldn't panic. "Quickly send word to all Lizardmen defending outside to retreat to the underground palace." "Yes." The Lizardman chief turned to look at another Lizardman soldier. "Once everyone has retreated into the underground palace, have them break into smaller groups, utilizing the complex terrain. Groups of 6, groups of 8, groups of 10, spread throughout the underground palace." "Understood." This Lizardman soldier hurriedly retreated to deliver the chief's orders. After these two Lizardman soldiers had left, he turned his gaze to the head guard at his side. She seemed to sense the chief's gaze, turning around and gripping her weapon tightly. "Father, do you have any instructions?" The Lizardman chief looked at his beloved daughter before him and sighed. "I plan to have you lead a small team composed of our tribe's elite Lizardmen, roaming through the various passages of the underground palace." Speaking to hear, the Lizardman chief's face turned cold. "Hunt down and eliminate all 10,000 hobgoblins that have invaded the underground palace. Don't underestimate our Lizardman tribe." Upon hearing this, the head guard couldn't help but be moved. "But if I take all the elite Lizardmen away, what about your safety, father?" The Lizardman chief waved his hand. "My safety is unimportant, what matters is that our tribe can survive. This is my responsibility as chief." Upon hearing this, the head guard's eyes became firm, she had already prepared herself. "Yes, father." She took the chief's orders and went to organize the elite roaming squad, vowing to leave all 10,000 hobgoblins permanently in the underground palace. Watching his head guard's departing figure, the Lizardman chief sighed. This task should have been given to his son, Gabble, to complete. He had already arranged for Gabble to be on the front lines to stabilize the Lizardman tribe's morale with Gabble's status. However, there was still one thing that worried him greatly. He still remembered the words that the powerful ogre had reminded him of in his mind before leaving. Hopefully, Gabble won't do that. The chief silently closed his eyes. All he could do now was wait, as long as they held on for 3 days, those two adults the ogre spoke of. Outside the underground palace. So hungry, so hungry. There's food ahead, charge. Like a tidal wave, the hobgoblin army, clad in full armor, charged towards the Lizardman tribe like ravenous demons. Courting death. Gabble swung his spear, directly piercing the throat of the hobgoblin in front of him. HMPH, daring to offend Gabble, this great one. Seeing that he had so easily killed a hobgoblin soldier, he arrogantly raised his head, mocking the seemingly fragile hobgoblin army before him. "With the likes of you low-level hobgoblins, you dare to attack the Lizardman tribe." He even struck a flamboyant, eye-catching pose. "Lord Gabble is mighty. Lord Gabble is super cool." The few lackeys following Gabble immediately began to sing his praises. Ha ha. The corners of Gabble's mouth nearly reached the sky, his expression even more smug. Just then, a Lizardman soldier responsible for delivering messages brought the chief's order. The chief orders all Lizardmen to retreat to the underground palace as quickly as possible. Hurry. Gabble's expression froze, a look of disbelief on his face. He grabbed the Lizardman messenger by the collar, rebuking loudly. "What did you just say? Retreat. Are we, the noble Lizardman tribe, to retreat before mere hobgoblins? How could father issue such an order?" The Lizardman messenger's expression was bitter, saying fearfully. "Prince Gabble, the chief has indeed issued the order to retreat." Gabble's expression was even more stunned. This news was a bit too much for the younger Lizardmen to accept. However, the chief had been in power for many years and still held considerable authority. Most of the lizardmen began to retreat. Seeing this, Gabal's expression became even uglier. A lackey at his side, seeing the situation, quickly said, "Prince Gabal, let's retreat quickly, or the hobgoblin army will charge over again." Although Gabal felt extremely aggrieved in his heart, he still gritted his teeth and followed the tribe back into the underground palace. After returning to the underground palace, the more Gabal thought about it, the angrier he became, slamming his fist against the wall in fury. "I just don't understand why father would make such a decision. If it were me." The lackeys at his side also had dejected expressions, muttering, "Perhaps the chief really is getting old." These words fell into Gabal's ears, and his eyes narrowed involuntarily. He remembered the words that strange clownish Majin had said when he encountered him in the forest on his way back. "Unfortunately, your chief is ultimately getting old." Gabal silently closed his eyes, tightly gripping his weapon. Finally, he opened them again, a fierce glint flashing in his eyes. His fierce gaze turned to the lackey beside him, asking, "How many lizardmen are dissatisfied with the chief this time?" This lackey had already noticed that Gabal's gaze was not right. "Lord Gabal, what are you planning to do?" Gabal coldly snorted, uttering an icy sentence. "It seems father really is getting old." Chapter 69 Failure. "Lord Gabal, approximately over 1,000 lizardmen are willing to support you, my lord." The henchman beside Gabal reported. "Only a little over 1,000 clansmen." Gaval's face twitched slightly. With his status and prestige within the clan, shouldn't he have received a unanimous response? "Your Highness, yes, yes, and they are all relatively young lizardmen." The lizardman henchman added, "HMPH, forget it. I heard father dismiss the guards around him. Having these 1,000 people is enough." Gaval waved his hand, his cloak rustling. He was going to take these people to accomplish a great task. "Let's go, take these clansmen and come with me to see father." The henchmen all looked at Lord Gaval's back with admiration. "Yes, Lord Gaval is so cool, he's simply the savior of our younger generation." "That's right, only Lord Gaval can correctly lead our lizardman clan to defeat the detestable orc army." Under the flattery of a group of lackeys, over 1,000 lizardmen followed behind Gaval, gradually heading towards the depths of the underground palace. This group of people, relying on the fact that there were no guards around the leader, quietly sneaked into the leader's palace. Just then, a furious roar came from the depths of the underground palace, the voice filled with complex emotions of disappointment and chills. "Gaval, you are simply outrageous." The lizardman leader on the throne looked at Gaval, who was pointing a weapon at him from below, in disbelief. "Father, you are old, you're retreating because of a mere orc clan." Gaval's eyes were fixed on the leader above, or rather, more precisely, on the golden spiral spear in the leader's hand. With it, Gaval could command the entire lizardman tribe, something that should have belonged to him. "HMPH, I was originally the only named monster in the clan, yet I have to listen to you, a monster without even a name. This is simply a joke." Gaval's dissatisfaction was directly released at this moment, his voice full of the arrogance of a named monster. "Gaval, you." Upon hearing Gaval's words, the leader was even more disappointed in his son. Just for the sake of his own self-esteem, he launched a rebellion to seize power when the clan was facing life and death. "Gaval, do you know that an army of 200,000 orcs is watching our clan outside? As my son, why at this time, where do you want to lead our clan?" The leader loudly rebuked this unfilial son in front of him. Even the young lizardmen behind Gaval had strange expressions after hearing this. Seeing that the expressions of the 1,000+ people he had brought were somewhat different, and even the weapons in their hands had loosened a bit, Gaval thought, what a joke. They were here to seize power. Having come this far, there was no turning back. "Shut up, old man, you only have one path now, obediently hand over the golden spiral spear." Knowing that this was a critical moment and no time could be wasted, Gaval flashed to the leader's side with his weapon, ready to seize the golden spiral spear that symbolized power. "Gaval, it is you who should shut up. If I hand over the tribe to you now, it will only plunge into endless hell." Seeing his son rushing up, the leader gripped the golden spiral spear tightly and thrust it at Gaval. Upon seeing this, Gaval used his weapon to make contact with the golden spiral spear and was instantly sent flying. "Lord Gaval, how could this be?" Landing on the ground, Gaval looked at the leader above in disbelief, his whole body radiating golden light. His eyes widened. Could this be the power from the golden spiral spear? Gaval's pupils were filled with bloodshot veins, and his greed grew even more. "Only this power is worthy of me, Lord Gaval, haha." On the other hand, the old leader's condition didn't seem too good after using that attack. The old leader looked at his hand gripping the weapon, trembling uncontrollably, and shook his head with a bitter smile. Cough cough, it seems I am really old. Back when I was young. Seeing that the leader's body could no longer hold on, Gavel shot out again. Father, don't persist any longer, let me maintain the glory of the Lizardman clan. The old leader sighed and looked at Gavel, who was confronting him with weapons. Gavel, you are too young. What you are doing will only lead the tribe into the abyss. Stop now. Upon hearing this, Gavel sneered. In the end, father is still unwilling to give up the power in his hands. I will prove that I am more outstanding than father. Only I can lead everyone out of this predicament. The old leader sighed deeply, knowing that he could no longer persuade Gavel. Bang, bang, whoosh, boom. But after all, the old leader was already old. Even with the blessing of the golden spiral spear, his physical strength could no longer keep up. Seeing this, Gavel laughed even more wildly. Old man, you're finished, admit defeat. A trace of blood seeped from the corner of the old leader's mouth, and he coughed violently. You wish. Gavel seemed to be possessed, a glimmer of blood red flashing in his eyes. With just this final blow, the golden spiral spear would be his. Just as Gavel's weapon was about to touch the old leader, it was suddenly struck by a spear, causing the attack to deviate. Then came a delicate shout. Brother, what exactly are you doing? The person who came was of course the old leader's daughter, who was also the captain of the guard who had gone to gather the elite clansmen. Seeing this scene, Gavel turned his head with an ugly expression, knowing that he was only a little short. Damn it. However, when he saw the 100+ fully armed and powerful lizardmen standing behind the captain of the guard, his pupils suddenly contracted. The captain of the guard quickly rushed up and helped the leader, who had fallen to the ground, up. Her tone was very worried. Father, are you all right? Seeing the worried look in his daughter's eyes, the old leader wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Haha, it's rare for this old bone to still be able to move around, cough cough. Before he could finish speaking, he coughed violently again. The captain of the guard patted the leader's back and then looked at Gavel. The elite lizardmen who had rushed over also surrounded the old leader at this time, looking coldly at Gavel and the 1,000 younger lizardmen behind him. A very experienced elite lizardman stood out and pointed his weapon at Gavel. Lord Gavel, wouldn't you like to explain to us seniors what is going on? Instantly, the magical aura of hundreds of B-rank or higher elite lizardmen spread throughout the underground palace. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 70 Guerrilla Tactics. The captain of the guard roared furiously at Gaviru, who was still stunned. Brother, do you know what you're doing? Gaviru felt the pressure emanating from the elite lizardmen in front of him, and his eyes cleared slightly. He stared blankly at his father on the ground and his sister, who was loudly questioning him, and for a moment, he didn't know what to say. 6 elite lizardmen stepped forward, knocked Gaviru's weapon away, and directly pinned him to the ground. Gaviru didn't resist for a moment. As for the 1,000 lizardmen behind him, their faces were filled with panic. After all, many of these elite lizardmen were of their grandfather's or uncle's generation. You little whelps, put down your weapons now. The elite lizardmen roared at the 1,000 young lizardmen. Seeing that Prince Gaviru had been subdued, these lizardmen tremblingly put down their weapons. They all lowered their heads, not daring to meet the eyes of their elders. This also signaled the failure of the coup. Seeing that the situation had stabilized, the old chief, supported by the captain of the guard, returned to his throne. Father, Gaviru was just eager to prove himself. This time. After all, she and Gaviru were siblings. Even though he had committed such a heinous act, she still had to step forward and plead for her brother. The chief looked at Gaviru, who was being held down by 6 elite lizardmen, a trace of reluctance flashing in his eyes, but as the chief, he had to make a statement. HMPH, don't plead for me. I, Gaviru, dare to act and dare to take responsibility. This has nothing to do with my subordinates. Even though Gaviru was pinned to the ground, his face was still defiant. The old chief sighed. Lock Gaviru and the others in the dungeon. We'll deal with them after this crisis is over. He waved his hand, announcing the verdict, but his face seemed even older. Yes, chief. The 6 elite lizardmen obeyed the chief's order and took Gaviru into the dungeon. The remaining lizardmen also looked bitter. Their weapons were removed by the elite lizardmen, and they were all escorted into the dungeon. After all, the rebels had been dealt with properly. Father, all 168 elite lizardmen have been gathered. The captain of the guard stood before these elite lizardmen and bowed to the chief. The Lizardman chief glanced faintly over these elite Lizardman warriors. They were all the elites of their tribe, no weaker than the great orc tribe that had been destroyed some time ago. Captain of the guard, I entrust these men to your command. You must defend the underground palace. The captain of the guard's eyes flashed with surprise. He knelt on one knee before the chief on the throne, raising his head to reveal a determined expression. Chief, even if I die, I will completely hold back the Pighead army. The Lizardman chief nodded solemnly. Go, and remember to be careful. The captain of the guard nodded, stood up, and led all the elite Lizardmen out of the hall. The Lizardman chief looked at the departing figure of the captain of the guard, a rare trace of affection appearing in his eyes. If it's absolutely necessary, I can only awaken the one who is sleeping. The voice echoed faintly in the hall, and the old chief's figure gradually disappeared. Amidst the torrent of the Pighead army. Great General Pighead, these Lizardmen have retreated into the underground palace. Should we pursue them? A Pighead soldier returned with the message. The great General Pighead was several times larger than ordinary Pighead generals, and the black aura surrounding his body faintly emitted an A-level magic power aura. He looked up and gazed at the entrance to the underground palace in the wetland, falling into contemplation. HMPH. It seems those slippery Lizardmen want to use the complex terrain of the underground palace to hold back our army. It had to be said that the opposing Lizardman chief had some brains. Their army couldn't pour into the underground palace all at once. Haha, these cowardly Lizardmen fled when they saw us. We'll devour them all sooner or later. A Pighead general on the side laughed heartily, his eyes filled with the intent to devour. The great General Pighead glanced at the Pighead general beside him, who was laughing gleefully. HMPH, this time you will lead 10,000 Pighead soldiers into the underground palace and kill all these Lizardmen. If you can't do it, then prepare to become nourishment for the king. The great General Pighead's eyes flashed fiercely, and he issued the order to the Pighead general. Ah, me. The Pighead general hadn't reacted for a moment when he heard the great general's order. What, do you have a problem with that? The great General Pighead drew his large, several-meter-long broadsword and slashed at the side. With a sizzle sound, a crack several meters long opened directly on the ground, the threat implicit in it. Gulp. The Pighead general swallowed hard and quickly made a guarantee. Great General, just wait for my good news. The Pighead general led 10,000 Pighead soldiers into the Lizardmen underground palace. The damp ground, the dim space, and the intricate tunnels made the 10,000 Pighead soldiers who had just entered the underground palace a little confused. General, there are too many cave entrances in front of us. What should we do? The Pighead soldiers all looked at the Pighead general in front of them. HMPH, these hateful rats only know how to hide behind our backs. Don't be afraid, go into any entrance you see, and kill any Lizardmen you see. The Pighead general didn't care so much, directly taking some people and rushing into a cave entrance. As for the captain of the guard's side. Report, Captain of the Guard, 10,000 Pighead soldiers have poured into the tunnels, and they are now scattered in various cave entrances. The captain of the guard's eyes turned cold, and he instructed the Lizardman soldier in front of him. Let the Lizardmen in each tunnel prepare themselves, and remember not to fight alone. Yes, sir. The captain of the guard turned his gaze to the elite Lizardmen behind him, giving them orders. In groups of 10, follow me to support our clansmen in the various tunnels. Her orders were passed down. Yes, Captain of the Guard, this time we must make sure this group of pigheads comes back empty-handed. The captain of the guard nodded faintly, leading 10 elite Lizardmen towards a cave tunnel. Before long, the sound of weapons clashing rang out in the various tunnels. There was fighting everywhere, but because of the terrain advantage and the familiar environment, the Lizardmen's casualties were not great. For a time, countless Pighead soldiers were besieged, and blood splattered everywhere. General, this is the third wave of attacks. Every time they can't win, they retreat. We're trapped here. The Pighead soldier said anxiously. The Pighead general swung his axe, cutting a Lizardman who wanted to sneak attack him in half at the waist, instantly covering himself in blood. Haha, they're just rats. The Pighead general's eyes became bloodshot, and he walked towards the Lizardman's corpse on the ground, devouring it frantically. It could be seen that some scales began to grow on the surface of the Pighead general's body, and even webbed feet like those of Lizardmen grew on his feet. He didn't even spare the corpses of the Pighead soldiers on the side, tearing them all into his mouth, like a hungry ghost from hell. Chapter 71 The Sleeping Dragon. The captain of the guard, who had been observing from the shadows, frowned deeply. devouring the power of others to use for oneself. She knew she couldn't let this Pighead general continue to devour, otherwise their advantage in the underground palace would gradually be eroded. Rats, here again. The Pighead general grinned hideously, baring his blood-stained fangs. He picked up the large axe from the ground and swung it at the charging lizardmen. Bang! The lizardman was sent flying backward, the weapon tightly held in his hand buzzing. The other elite lizardmen took advantage of the opening created by the Pighead general's swing and activated their skills with their weapons. Water Stream Spear, 8. Puff. The spears pierced the Pighead general's body, blood splattering, pinning him to the ground. Die. A figure leapt high, launching a fatal strike at the Pighead general's head. Swoosh. The spear plunged directly into the Pighead general's brain through his eye, blood splattering on the cave walls. The Pighead general crashed heavily to the ground, his body riddled with spears, completely devoid of breath. A lizardman helped up a companion who had fallen to the ground, supporting him as they approached the captain of the guard. Have the Pighead tribes in the other passages been eliminated? The lizardman nodded vigorously. Captain, apart from this troublesome Pighead general, most of the Pighead soldiers have been beheaded, with a small number escaping. The captain of the guard's tightly drawn face relaxed slightly, and she asked a question that concerned her. What are the casualties on our side this time? The reporting lizardman hesitated for a moment, then spoke in a somewhat heavy tone, revealing a heartbreaking number. The casualties this time are approximately close to 1,000, with 10 elite lizardman warriors among the sacrificed. The captain of the guard's slightly calmed expression froze. Facing only 10,000 Pighead soldiers, nearly 1,000 warriors from their tribe had been sacrificed, reaching a staggering 10th. There are dozens of times more enemies outside than us, can we really hold out for 3 days? Her face was extremely grim, and she felt a bit fortunate that their tribe had adopted a defensive guerrilla tactic. If Gaviru had really succeeded in seizing power this time, given his personality, he would definitely attack with the full strength of the tribe, and it was hard to say whether the Lizardman tribe could survive. Remember to collect the bodies of our fallen comrades, don't let the Pighead tribe devour them. Dispose of the Pighead soldier corpses cleanly as well. Several hundred Pighead soldiers ran out of the underground palace entrance in a panic, afraid that they would be surrounded and killed by the Lizardmen inside if they were even a little slow. Report. Great General, the 10,000 soldiers led by the Pighead General have been beheaded, and the General himself has not returned. The Pighead Great General sneered upon hearing the information brought back by the messenger. HMPH, a useless piece of trash. It would have been better for those 10,000 soldiers to become nourishment for our king directly, he really got off easy. However, the fact that some soldiers were able to escape shows that the Lizardmen are still having a hard time swallowing these 10,000 plus soldiers. Haha, let the 6 Pighead generals lead 20,000 soldiers to continue the attack, don't give the enemy a chance to breathe. Yes, the Pighead soldier retreated with the order. It could be seen that a small stream separated from the torrent of the Pighead army, led by 6 Pighead generals who were massive and emanated terrifying auras. The Pighead Great General watched this scene with a cold expression, confident that this time he could conquer this underground palace for the king. The Lizardman tribe is merely putting up a feudal resistance, this forest will belong to our king sooner or later. Inside a passage of the underground palace. Report. Captain, the Pighead army is attacking again, this time they have 20,000 men. The Lizardman's trembling voice echoed within the passage. Quick, notify everyone to prepare for battle. The captain of the guard didn't even have time to rest and hurriedly grabbed her weapon, entering the battlefield. HMPH, so you're the ones who killed the previous Pighead general. Didn't expect you to have a few tricks up your sleeve. Haha, this time I'm going to enjoy a good slaughter. The 6 Pighead generals excitedly brandished their weapons, looking at the captain of the guard who was standing with difficulty in front of them. And beside them were several lizardmen who had been chopped into pieces. Surrender. With your strength, you can only obediently become our food. A leading Pighead general waved a large cleaver, his gaze fixed on the captain of the guard in front of him. The captain of the guard spat out a mouthful of blood towards the ground, looking at these Pighead generals with a grim expression. You evil beings will eventually be sanctioned. The Pighead general's expression became even more mocking as he laughed wildly at the Lizardman captain in front of him. This world is a jungle where the strong prey on the weak. Blame yourselves for being too weak. The Pighead general wielding the cleaver swung it down at the defenseless captain in front of him, wanting to devour this Lizardman personally. Coochie. It was the sound of a blade entering flesh, blood splattering everywhere, and a figure fell directly in front of the captain of the guard. "Captain, you, run." After uttering these last words, he lost his breath. The captain of the guard's eyes were instantly stained red with blood. She still remembered how this warrior had accompanied her in killing countless Pighead soldiers, but now he had fallen in front of her. "Didn't expect there to be someone willing to take a blade for you. I'm even more excited now, haha." The Pighead general continued to swing his large blade, the huge blade coming down towards her face, and she closed her eyes in despair. But then, clang, she opened her eyes in confusion, seeing a golden vortex spear deflect the Pighead general's large blade. She became even more puzzled. Isn't that father's weapon? How could it be? Just then, a lazy female voice came from the other side of the passage. "Didn't expect that after sleeping for several hundred years and being woken up, I would find that my home was almost stolen by the ugly Pighead tribe." A pair of dragon wings unfolded, golden hair setting off a gorgeous face and shapely figure similar to a human, with a pair of golden dragon horns on her head. The golden eyes contained black vertical pupils, revealing a faint majesty. The captain of the guard was somewhat stunned after seeing this figure resembling a female war god. Who is she? Why does she have a faint dragon aura on her? Upon seeing this figure, a desire to submit arose in the captain of the guard's bloodline. Chapter 72 Provocation. This mysterious woman simply gestured, and the golden vortex spear that had flown out returned to her hand. Under the Pighead general's astonished gaze, she flapped her dragon wings and landed in front of the captain of the guard. Her golden eyes sized up the captain of the guard on the ground. "Who are you?" The captain of the guard, seeing this person with a human face and a faintly oppressive gaze upon her, curiously asked. "Haha, you must be the daughter of the current old leader. I am a dragonkin awakened by your father." This dragonkin woman spoke with a boisterous tone, an accent that didn't match her exquisite appearance, more like a sturdy female warrior. Ah, the captain of the guard's brain temporarily stalled for a moment. Dragonkin, could it be a superior race of lizardmen? But why does she have the appearance of a human woman? She was also slightly shocked by the mysterious person's tone. However, she recovered from her daze and asked her question. The dragonkin laughed heartily and tossed her golden hair, looking imposing. "I am indeed a superior race of lizardmen. After we lizardmen women evolve, we all look like this." Seeing that the captain of the guard was seriously injured, the dragonkin woman swept her palm across her forehead, and a faint golden halo enveloped her. A layer of pale golden scales slowly grew on the captain of the guard's body, and a warm, scorching aura surged within her. The captain of the guard looked at her body in surprise, her wounds constantly healing. When the light dissipated, the scales also disappeared. "The wounds are all healed." The dragonkin woman looked at the constantly astonished captain of the guard with a smile, before turning her gaze to the bewildered Pighead general. "Next, leave the cleanup to me." The sturdy tone burst from the dragonkin's mouth, and she even twisted her joints. Crack, crack. "It's been a long time since I've moved my body, so I'll use you guys as practice." The golden vortex spear in her hand shot out, carrying an imposing aura and extreme penetrating power. Dragonkin. The Pighead general, seeing the oppressive aura of the dragonkin in front of him, immediately dared not be careless. He swung the large blade in his hand and slashed at the spear shot by the dragonkin. Clang, clang. Sparks flew everywhere. It was clear that the lizardmen race was not very strong, but this one in front of him. Boom. The large blade in the Pighead general's hand directly shattered, and he looked at the remaining hilt in his hand in disbelief. "Hey, you dare to go head to head with me? You're not qualified." Excited golden light flickered in the dragonkin's eyes as she gradually adapted to the power in her body. Golden dragon armor activate. The dragonkin's golden hair flew wildly, and a powerful dragon aura emanated, with a golden dragon head phantom appearing behind her. A set of golden dragon armor appeared on the dragonkin's body, covered with golden scales, paired with a short skirt made of golden dragon scales, as if bathed in holy light. She was simply like a goddess of war descending into the world. HMPH, prepare to die. In this form, the dragonkin's aura soared several times, and even the golden vortex spear in her hand was covered with golden flames. Her figure shot out, flashing between the 6 Pighead generals. The burst was so fast that they didn't even have time to react before she arrived behind them. The Pighead generals stood there motionless, like statues. She indifferently extinguished the flames on the golden vortex spear and put the weapon behind her back. Schlick, 6. It could be seen that a fist-sized blood hole had appeared in the throat of each of the 6 Pighead generals, but no blood gushed out as they fell to the ground one after another. Even their bodies were ignited with golden flames, as if to burn away all evil. So strong. The captain of the guard sharply inhaled a mouthful of humid air, watching the dragonkin easily resolve the battle. What are you still standing there for? Come with me to clean up the other Pighead soldiers. This time, with me here, not one of them will escape. Oh. The captain of the guard could only follow behind the dragonkin clad in golden armor in a daze. 2 days passed. The Pighead Great General looked at the entrance to the underground palace not far ahead with some doubt. At the beginning, with the influx of 20,000 troops, the sounds of fighting could be heard from outside the underground palace, showing how tragic it was in the narrow cave. But now the movement inside seemed to have gradually subsided. In theory, their 20,000 Pighead army should have slaughtered all the Lizardmen inside. But why haven't any Pighead soldiers come out to report the situation? Could something have gone wrong? The more the Pighead Great General thought about it, the more he felt that this was possible. Just as he was about to send a team to investigate, movement came from the entrance of the underground palace. Coming to report so late. The Pighead Great General looked towards the entrance of the underground palace, but his pupils suddenly contracted. He saw charred pigheads being thrown out of the entrance of the underground palace like throwing balls. From the charred appearance, it could be seen that these were the Pighead generals he had sent out before. A lazy female voice came out. That thing called Pighead Emperor, come and claim your discarded trash. As the voice fell, a deathly silence fell over the Pighead army. A figure with a golden spear on her back, clad in golden armor, with golden hair and an exquisite figure, slowly walked out. However, as she said these words, she unceremoniously picked her ear. Finally, she slowly walked in front of the hundreds of thousands of Pighead army, her posture aloof, her face cold as she pulled out the golden spear and pointed provocatively forward. A disdainful voice resounded throughout the field. Tell that Pighead Emperor to fight me. You bunch of trash. Silence, deathly silence. After a moment, a few angry roars came from the army. How dare you, a mere woman, provoke our king? You are truly courting death. HMPH. A passage slowly opened in the Pighead army, and several Pighead races whose sizes were several times larger than ordinary Pighead soldiers appeared. These were naturally the Pighead generals with more fiery tempers. The dragonkin's beautiful eyebrows wrinkled slightly. Why were these unsightly fellows coming? HMPH, did you see the 6 Pigheads on the ground? Don't let trash like you come out to get slapped. You're courting death. How could these Pighead generals endure such provocation? Their huge figures rushed out on the ground. Seeing these attacks, the dragonkin's expression did not change in the slightest, and golden light flashed in her golden eyes. All of you, get lost. The sound of weapons colliding rang out in an instant, and then shattered like a rotten branch. These Pighead generals spat out blood and flew out, and one of them even died directly under the dragonkin's attack, burned to ashes by the golden flames. Just as the dragonkin was about to kill these Pighead generals. Stop! A low voice rang out from the rear of the army, and the Pighead army consciously made way. Chapter 73, Ice Guards arrive at the battlefield. A Pighead tribe member with a body like a small mountain slowly walked over, uniquely possessing only one eye. Schlack! The sound of violent friction echoed across the field, and all the Pighead soldiers looked at this Pighead tribe member with a hint of fear. This Pighead tribe member was even dragging a large, 15-meter-long greatsword, which sparked as it dragged across the ground. The dragon person's exquisite face faltered, as she could feel the terrifying magical power emanating from this Pighead tribe member. You must be the Pighead Emperor. The dragon person pointed the golden vortex spear in her hand, looking at this Pighead tribe member who was radiating terrifying magical power. The Pighead Great General shook his head upon hearing this. Pighead Emperor. I can't compare to our king at all. I am the first Great General under the king's command. The Pighead Great General opened his scarlet single eye, staring at the suddenly appearing dragon person in front of him. What? Her expression froze. This Pighead tribe member, who made her feel a sense of crisis, was not even the Pighead Emperor. After a moment, then let this old lady test your strength. The dragon person unfurled the wings on her back, her whole body ablaze with golden flames, and waved her weapon as she charged towards the Pighead Great General. The Pighead Great General was not careless. He first released several defensive skills, using the side of his greatsword to block this attack. Clang! The crisp sound of impact reverberated across the battlefield. However, the Pighead Great General was forced back several steps by this immense force. He felt as if he had been hit by a giant dragon, and his chest burned painfully. What terrifying brute strength! The Pighead Great General stomped on the ground, and the ground beneath him immediately cracked open. After stopping, he used all his strength to swing his greatsword, and the entire blade was covered in black magic. Boom! The ground was directly cleaved open, and the crack extended for more than 10 meters. Fortunately, the dragon person used her aerial advantage to avoid this attack, otherwise, she would have been seriously injured if hit. She looked at the Pighead Great General's attack, and her heart stirred slightly. It seemed that she had to show her true skills to deal with him. She saw her figure come to the top of the Pighead Great General, slowly fixed her figure, and her whole body's magic power greatly increased. Open black lens bracket holy flame close black lens bracket activate. The dragon person roared in her heart, and the golden flames all over her body blazed, as if she had turned into a small sun. The Pighead Great General was blinded by the dazzling gold, narrowed his eyes, he felt this flame was very uncomfortable, even the additional ability of open black lens bracket starver close black lens bracket on his body was weakened by a few points. But the dragon person's attack was obviously not that simple. Then she condensed a few sparks in the air, from the beginning of 1, became 5, and finally turned into 12 huge flame balls. Open black lens bracket dragon flame burst close black lens bracket. 12 flame balls surrounded the Pighead Great General in the air, and fell with a bang. The Pighead Great General's pupils shrank violently, and black tentacles grew out of his body, each tentacle seemed to have the face of a hungry ghost. This is part of the open black lens bracket starver close black lens bracket. S ability that the king attached to the Pighead Great General, which can devour. Open black lens bracket fur enhancement close black lens bracket open black lens bracket starving devour close black lens bracket open black lens bracket defense enhancement close black lens bracket. 12 giant flame balls smashed to the ground, and the ground was instantly melted by the sacred high temperature. Boom! The violent explosion brought up a gust of wind that directly blew away some of the Pighead soldiers who were close to it. The surrounding Pighead soldiers, seeing that this skill had such great power, silently retreated more than 100 meters. The dragon person flapped her wings and flew to the ground to look at the location of her skill's explosion. It could be seen that the sacred flame on her body had dimmed a bit, obviously this skill was very consuming for her. The aftermath of the explosion passed, and the dust also dissipated. A disheveled figure was gasping for breath, and most of the heavy armor on his body had been melted by the high temperature. Even the surface of the skin was burned into a large area, and at this moment, the Pighead Great General looked even more hideous. Haha, not bad power, but unfortunately it can't kill me. The voice came from the Pighead Great General's mouth, and his eyes sharply looked at the dragon person who had dimmed a lot. Fortunately, open black lens bracket starver close black lens bracket helped him devour most of the power of this skill, otherwise. But the dragon person's face gradually became serious, and the hand holding the golden vortex spear became tighter and tighter. But what's worse is, open black lens bracket self-regeneration close black lens bracket activate. A strong green light began to emerge from the Pighead Great General's body, and the burned skin on his body began to gradually recover. In this Moe King world, open black lens bracket self-regeneration close black lens bracket is not a rare skill. As long as it is a stronger monster, it will have this skill, which is very useful. Haha, this is part of the power bestowed upon me by the king. Dragon person, have you experienced it? Our king is invincible. The Pighead Great General laughed, dragging the greatsword and rushed towards the dragon person who had consumed too much magic power, and the ground was trampled into deep pits. HMPH, this old lady won't admit defeat. She frowned, her pair of beautiful golden eyes were full of fighting spirit. Just as their figures were about to collide together, the earth suddenly trembled, and the stones on the ground moved slightly. What's going on? An earthquake. The Pighead tribe's army became extremely flustered, and their faces were filled with surprise and uncertainty. The Pighead Great General and the dragon person immediately looked in one direction, and a huge shadow was approaching. An incomparably terrifying magic power aura, accompanied by a biting chill, the huge body of the Ice Guardian finally approached the battlefield. Ice Guardian is here, following the Lord's order to come to support. The huge rumbling sound spread throughout the entire battlefield, causing everyone to stop. The Ice Guardian seemed to notice the movement on the dragon person's side, and condensed a snowball in his palm and smashed it towards the Pighead Great General. Seeing a huge snowball smashing towards him like a meteorite, the Pighead Great General hurriedly moved away from the dragon person's position. Boom! Snowflakes fluttered, the snowball exploded directly, and a small team of Goblin Wolf cavalry jumped out of the snowball. Haha, Gobuta's Vanguard team is here to support, watch me kill everyone. As soon as Gobuta jumped out, he struck a handsome pose, and then, well, he saw a Pighead great general with a body like a small mountain in front of him staring at him with unkind eyes. Gobuta's heart suddenly became hairy. Damn, Ice Guardian, you sold me out, why are you fighting boss as soon as you come up? And in the high sky of the battlefield, there are two blurred figures. Wow, Granstar, there are densely packed Pighead soldiers, I have never seen this battle before. Lemuru unfolded a pair of bat wings in the air, looking at the Pighead army below. Only an army of 200,000 Pigheads. Huh, why did a dragon person pop up? Granstar was about to respond to Lemuru carelessly, but noticed the dragon person fighting against an A+ level Pighead tribe member below, with a face full of doubts. Open black lens bracket ruler close black lens bracket help me analyze the dragon person below, I remember that she did not appear in the original work. Yes. Chapter 74 The battle begins. Listening to the emotionless mechanical voice in his mind, Gulastan sighed inwardly. The Overlord was currently being managed by AI. Ever since evolving in the Storm Dragon Cave, the Overlord had fallen into a slumber, or more accurately, was upgrading. When he initially evolved, the Overlord's voice had echoed in his mind. Due to the host's world transfer and race upgrade, a large amount of computing power has been consumed. The Overlord is in AI-managed mode, retaining basic abilities for normal use. These two abilities were merely the most basic of the Overlord's capabilities. The core abilities had not yet been unlocked, and he could also absorb materials to enhance his magic power. Because of this, since Gulastan's evolution, he rarely used the Overlord except to gather materials, relying more on the Marauder and the Lord of Ice. However, some time ago, he unexpectedly received an automatic message from the Overlord. Overlord upgrade and repair progress reached 92%. Upgrade halted due to insufficient energy. Please have the host plunder 10,000 units of souls as energy. Gulastan glanced indifferently at the battlefield below, wondering if it was a coincidence that he had arrived just in time for the Pighead Emperor incident. 10,000 units of soul energy, huh? Just then, the Overlord's AI voice sounded, directly interrupting Gulastan's thoughts. Target: Dragonoid, analysis successful. A special mutated individual among the Lizardmen. Due to the dragon bloodline within his body reaching 60%, he has independently evolved into the superior Dragonoid. Oh, he actually has 60% dragon bloodline. What's the average content in ordinary Lizardmen? Less than 10%. Ah, okay. Gulastan turned his gaze back to the Dragonoid radiating a holy golden light. One look and he knew it was the bloodline of a giant dragon. Tisk, he's a talent. Oh, a talent. Lemuru heard Gulastan clicking his tongue and followed his gaze. Huh, there's actually a superior species among the Lizardmen that evolved on its own. On the battlefield, the imposing Dragonoid curiously watched Gobuta, who had suddenly popped out of the snowball. He muttered to himself. This is the support that the old chief spoke of. But why is it a goblin? And he looks so unreliable. As for the Pighead general on the side, his gaze towards the comical figure in front of him grew increasingly unfriendly, and he began to wield his greatsword. The cavalry led by Gobuta suddenly found themselves facing A+ class monsters and felt a bit overwhelmed. Gobuta's face turned pale, especially when he saw the fierce-looking one-eyed Pighead general about to raise such a large greatsword, and he immediately cried out in fear. A greatsword that's several meters long, isn't that a bit exaggerated even for slaughtering pigs? Gobuta, riding on a frost wolf, looked extremely nervous. Upon hearing this, the Pighead general's expression turned even colder, and a chilling aura emanated from his body. Captain Gobuta. Gobuzo, who was beside him, couldn't bear to watch any longer and tugged at Gobuta's sleeve. The two lords are watching from above. No, before departing, you swore an oath in front of the two lords that the vanguard you led would definitely achieve the first merit. Gobuta ignored Gobuzo's reminder and instead looked at the female Dragonoid behind him, who was giving them strange looks. He quickly wiped away his tears and snot and ran over. Big sister, I'm so scared, please protect me. As if he had suffered a great grievance, he rode his frost wolf behind the Dragonoid big sister. The Dragonoid was also very surprised. Weren't you guys here to reinforce? What's going on? However, seeing the Pighead general snorting heavily while dragging his greatsword towards them, she fearlessly stood in front of the goblin cavalry, raised her golden spear, and charged forward. Ding, ding, clang. Hiding behind, Goba smiled slyly, and his body, along with the frost wolf he was riding, quietly disappeared into the shadows. In the high-altitude position of the central battlefield. Gulastan, don't stop me. This Goba is too embarrassing for me. He even hid behind that big sister. I must let him taste the upgraded version of the straw coat punishment. Lemuru was about to explode with anger. He felt like he was losing all face, especially with tens of thousands of eyes watching. Don't worry, keep watching. Lemuru looked down and his eyes lit up. He saw Goba's figure disappear into the ground. Good lad, such a sneaky idea. Is he planning to launch a surprise attack? Lemuru smiled slyly again. But, I like it. Seeing Lemuru, who was angry just now revealing a lewd smile, Gulastan shook his head helplessly and instead looked at the other side of the battlefield. The Ice Guardians are also something else. They just threw Goba and the others into the center of the battlefield as soon as they arrived at the edge. It seems the battle is about to begin. On the other side of the battlefield, the Ice Guardians, who were facing 100,000 Pighead soldiers, said that they were not responsible for this. It was Goba who shouted that he wanted to be the Vanguard. He just helped out. On the other side of the battlefield, 100,000 Pighead soldiers surrounded the Ice Giant, looking up in horror at the Ice Giant in front of them. What the heck is this? It's a giant. Too scary. The Ice Guardian bumped his fists together, and the corners of his mouth curled into an arc, but this expression was very frightening on his huge face. Ice Guardian, let the Goblin cavalry down first. Benimaru on his shoulder, looking at the Pighead army on the ground, ignited an icy blue flame in one eye. Okay. The Ice Guardian squatted down, and an arm made of ice crystals supported the ground. All Goblin cavalry maintained formation, charge. With Benimaru's order, the Goblin cavalry, who had been waiting for a long time, formed an arrow-shaped torrent and charged towards the Pighead army below. The Pighead army below also recovered from their shocked expressions and saw a cavalry riding white wolves charging towards them. The speed was so fast that it was like a white beast flashing by. In the blink of an eye, they had already rushed in front of them, and the Pighead soldiers hurriedly raised their shields. Just then, a Kijin with a purple ponytail leapt high, holding a giant sword in his hand, and amazing magic power was gathering. In the horrified eyes of the Pighead soldiers, the giant sword slashed towards them with a destructive aura. Boom! The Pighead soldiers in the front, who raised their shields, were directly torn apart. Ice thorns protruded from the ground where the blade had cut, and the surrounding Pighead soldiers were instantly pierced through. The Pighead army was forcibly torn open by Xian, and the Goblin cavalry followed closely, their spearheads pointing directly at this opening. For a time, the battlefield was filled with slaughter, chaos, blood, and gore. The Goblin cavalry directly killed their way through the Pighead army and began to turn around and charge back. Chapter 75 The White Robe Old Man and the Purple Devil. In a torrent of steel soldiers, the hundreds of thousands of armored Pighead soldiers seemed endless. Each charge of the goblins reaped a large swath of Pighead soldiers, and the frost wolves' snow-white fur was stained a layer of red. However, strangely, they all had a faint layer of ice armor, as if sharing most of the damage for this Goblin cavalry. On the battlefield, a white figure gradually approached, until it neared the Pighead army. Only then could one see a ghost person wearing a white robe, with white hair and beard, strolling through the Pighead army as if in their own backyard, holding a sheathed sword. From time to time, a few snowflakes drifted past the white-robed old man, resembling sharp blades, gently slicing through the space and leaving a blue trail. A Pighead soldier's gaze happened to fall upon him, and seeing the old man in white robes, he became excited. There's an old man here, brothers, chop him down. The Pighead soldier's voice attracted hundreds of soldiers, who raised their weapons and surrounded the white-robed old man. The white-haired ghost person chuckled, and at that moment, opened a pair of blood-red eyes, and an astonishing blood-black magic power erupted from his body. Hee, you mustn't underestimate this old man. These Pighead soldiers waved their weapons at the white-robed old man, about to chop him down. But just as the weapons were about to strike, the surrounding aura suddenly changed, and time seemed to be manipulated, becoming very slow. Even the movements of these Pighead soldiers seemed to be frozen, and a white light constantly flashed between their bodies. Swish swish, the white old man's figure disappeared, and the thin sword in its scabbard was also pulled out a little, and then appeared again in an open space. Only the effort of swinging the sword passed. Ding! The white-robed old man sheathed the thin sword without a trace of blood, the movements were smooth and extremely clean. Hee, I have to go see if my silly disciple has been beaten to death. Then, without even looking back, he closed his eyes and went to the other side of the battlefield with a chuckle. These white lights hovering around seemed to have been paused, and a pighead soldier laboriously turned his eyeballs, and in the last half second of his brain's activity, he saw a few white lights gradually enlarging in his pupils. Then, PFF'd, PFF'd, PFF'd. A burst of sword light flashed, heads flew up, blood spurted, limbs flew in the air, instantly clearing this area of soldiers. Red dyed the field of vision, directly dyeing this battlefield red. It was simply a hellish Asura field. A red snowflake fell sadly, burying itself in the ground of Xian Hong. Standing on Ice Guard's shoulders, Hong Maru watched the cleared battlefield and shook his head with a wry smile. The old man's swordsmanship is constantly improving. Zhu Kai, wearing a pink and white robe, covered her mouth and smiled. Isn't that a good thing? White Old is our village's swordsmanship instructor. Even Lord Limlu has to learn swordsmanship from the old man, but... brother, it will be difficult for you to win against the old man in the future. Perhaps hearing the teasing in his sister's mouth, Hong Maru scratched his hair and said indifferently. We are all working for the Lord, of course, the stronger the strength, the better. As for who is the strongest, that's not easy to say. Excited light constantly flashed in Hong Maru's eyes. As long as he was in the battlefield, he would become extremely excited, as if warlike blood flowed in his bones. Zhu Kai helplessly watched her brother trying to restrain his impulse. If it weren't for Lord Gulanzada's order for Hong Maru to sit in the army and convey commands with his mind, I'm afraid he would have already unleashed crazy ultimate moves. As for Ziwan's side, it was even crazier, wielding a giant sword in the army as if in no man's land. A giant sword chopped down with a boom, and the dense army was torn open a huge gap. Ziwan is now more crazy than anyone else. Once she starts fighting, no one can stop her. Her eyes are now scarlet, charging and killing everywhere. Haha, mere pighead tribe. Now her figure in the hearts of the pighead soldiers is like a purple demon. Wherever she went, the pighead soldiers would constantly retreat, their eyes filled with incomparable fear. This is too terrible. We can't beat them at all. A pighead general saw the pighead soldiers constantly retreating, and couldn't help but shout violently. No retreat, retriators die, all of you charge up to me. The pighead general waved his iron hammer and smashed two soldiers who were still retreating to death, constantly commanding the soldiers with a murderous look. But at this moment, a pair of scarlet eyes lit up behind the pighead general, and a purple demon-like figure appeared. Crack! The pighead general's body was directly divided into two halves by the giant sword, dead beyond dead. The pighead soldiers who had just been intimidated trembled at this scene. This is simply a demon. Limlu was also observing the situation of the entire battlefield, and just happened to see the scene of Ziwan scaring back the pighead soldiers. Perhaps seeing Ziwan's figure, he recalled some bad memories. Limlu immediately put on a sad face and said to Gulanzada. Gulanzada, can I reselect a secretary? I think that female goblin before was good. Ziwan is simply too terrible. Gulanzada immediately shook his head when he heard that Limlu wanted to change a secretary. Limlu, it was you who asked me to let Ziwan be your secretary, and you also said that you liked Shang. You had to beg me. Now, if you let me go and tell Ziwan, wouldn't that hurt her heart? Gulanzada can't do things that will make his subordinates sad, so he can only refuse. Gulanzada also spread his hands. He can't help it either. You must know that Zhu Kai is not only serving as his secretary now, but also the village's witch, and also has to be responsible for the production of clothes. As for the female goblin that Limlu said, she is now busy with a lot of things with Ligrud and can't spare her hand. So Gulanzada really can't help Limlu's request. Limlu was ashamed and lowered his little head when he heard that Gulanzada refused. I also saw. I don't mean to dislike Ziwan, it's just that sometimes her sudden little rampage, I'm the one who suffers. The most terrifying thing is that Ziwan asks me to help her with dishes every day. Limlu's face immediately turned completely black when he said the last sentence, as if he had experienced a great horror. Gulanzada, you must help me, you don't know that I can see a terrifying human face in the bowl every time. Gulanzada frowned. He also knew that Ziwan liked to make food, but is it as terrible as Limlu said? Turning his head to look, Limlu was looking at him gloomily with a look as if he was about to die. Limlu. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 76, Sneak Attack Successfully. Okay. I'll try to talk her out of it, okay. Rimuru looked so pitiful that Granstar sighed and decided to help his friend. Speaking of which, why hasn't Xian ever asked him to taste her cooking? Look how scared our Rimuru is, his head filled with shadows. It seems his little heart has suffered a considerable trauma. Is it really that bad? Upon hearing this, Rimuru gave Granstar an ugly smile. You definitely won't find a second like it. Rimuru immediately brought his small face close to Granstar and whispered. Granstar, you absolutely must dissuade Xian from wanting to be a chef. Granstar. Granstar looked towards the battlefield where the Dragonoid and Gobta were. The commotion there was quite something. Rimuru, that perverted guy Gobta is about to make his move. Rimuru turned his head and saw Gobta emerging from the Pighead General's shadow. The Pighead General's greatsword and the Dragonoid's golden vortex spear clashed repeatedly, sparks flying everywhere. Dragonoid, it seems that previous skill took quite a toll on you. Your strength has also decreased a lot. The Dragonoid's exquisite face gradually turned ugly. She wanted to take advantage of her agility, but the Pighead General seemed to have guessed her intentions. The huge cleaver was wielded with great force in the Pighead General's hands, airtight. It kept the already struggling Dragonoid from gaining any advantage besides consuming her magic power. Even more deadly was the Pighead General's Starving One additional effect, which continuously devoured the magic power in the Dragonoid's attacks, but at the same time, the Pighead General also endured the side effects of hunger. I just need to hold you back. Our reinforcements have arrived. You should worry about your army. She had already noticed the commotion on the other side of the battlefield. It seemed that the reinforcements outside were much more reliable than that silly goblin just now. Now their Lizardmen tribe could be considered saved. Upon hearing this, the Pighead General also frowned and looked towards the huge body of the Ice Guardian on the edge of the battlefield. He could feel the terrifying magical aura of this ice giant. But for some reason, this ice giant was instead stopping at the edge of the field, seemingly waiting for the opportunity to strike. The Pighead General retracted his gaze and began to fully focus on dealing with the enemy in front of him. So what if more of my army dies? Haha, as long as our king is still here, we can have as many soldiers as we want. The Dragonoid's attacks never stopped, not intending to give the enemy in front of her a chance to catch their breath. TCH, a bunch of inhuman guys. The Pighead General scoffed. His Pighead tribe had already lost all bottom lines under the influence of Starving One, and everything was dominated by hunger. From the moment they devoured their companions, they also fell into the abyss. The ground cracked, forming a small pit. The Pighead General's aura sword, one hand tightly grasping the incoming weapon, and the other hand directly knocked the Dragonoid away. Bang! The Pighead General twisted his neck, revealing a cruel smile, and dragged his great cleaver closer and closer to the Dragonoid lying in the pit. I have to thank you for your magic power. Although the aura is annoying, the magic power is so pure. The Dragonoid in the pit wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She didn't expect that her magic power would be depleted first. Instead, the Pighead General relied on devouring her magic power to recover most of it. The Dragonoid looked at the Pighead General walking towards her and smiled bitterly. I guess I screwed up this time. The Pighead General grinned hideously, raised his great cleaver, and aimed it at her head. Die. But just then, the Pighead General felt a chill in his back, and a deadly sense of crisis surged up. Out of instinct, he stopped his attack and slightly tilted his body. A slash passed close to his face, splattering blood. Did you forget about this big guy's existence when you wanted to bully the miss? Gobta jumped out of the Pighead General's shadow at this time. He originally wanted to cut off the opponent's pig head with one sword, but he didn't expect the opponent to react so quickly. However, this sneak attack had already caused a lot of damage. Gobta also followed up with a sweep skill. Perhaps he had a brain cramp, but he dared to physically collide with the Pighead General. Bang! Gobta felt like he had kicked an iron plate, and he gasped in pain. He stepped on the Pighead General's head with his other foot and jumped back. Frost Wolf steadily caught the falling Gobta. The Pighead General's face was gloomy as he covered a bleeding ear, slowly turning his head to look at Gobta with the eyes of a dead man. The veins on his forehead kept popping. It was one thing for this silly guy to sneak attack, but what he couldn't stand the most was that he actually kicked him twice on the head. Gobta looked at the Pighead General's gloomy eyes and secretly cried out that something was wrong. He quickly used shadow movement to slip away. However, this time Gobta first moved to the Dragonoid's side, took her with him, and then left the spot, putting the Dragonoid down far away from the Pighead General. Leave the rest to us. Here, this is a potion to restore magic power. Gobta patted his chest triumphantly and handed the Dragonoid a bottle of magic power potion. You. Although the Dragonoid was a little suspicious, she still took Gobta's magic power potion and gulped it down. Don't look down on me. This big guy just cut off that pig's ear. I haven't even shown my real skills yet. The Dragonoid ignored this guy who obviously liked to brag. Anyway, he only saved her because the other party was an ally. Now he couldn't care about this wounded soldier. He still had to deal with that big guy. Frost Wolf, let's go. Gobta directly rode Frost Wolf and led his charge squad to face the Pighead general. Gobuzo was overjoyed when he saw Gobta return to the team. Captain Gobta, you're finally back. I really thought you had run away. Gobta laughed heroically and waved his hand at these little brothers. What are you talking about? How could I abandon my little brothers? Besides, the two lords said that abandoning comrades and fleeing from battle is a great crime. Hee, then we can rest assured. The members of the Goblin cavalry Vanguard squad smiled at each other, but it was also at this moment. A large cleaver slashed towards their squad, accompanied by a gloomy voice. You little devils, are you looking down on this general? Looking at the great cleaver whistling towards them, Gobta's aura suddenly changed, his eyes becoming sharp, like a sword waiting to be unsheathed. Chapter 77, transformed into a giant frost wolf. The Pighead general's angry strike was incredibly powerful. The wind pressure from the slash alone made it impossible for the members of the Vanguard squad to move. Hiya! Gobta roared, his aura surging as he resolutely drew the short sword in his hand, black-purple lightning magic swirling around it. Bang! The Pighead general felt an unbelievable force transmitted from the handle of his blade. Following the momentum of his attack, he was sent flying by the small figure in front of him. Seeing that he had knocked away the Pighead general's greatsword, Gobta wore a serious expression, but inwardly, he was panicking. However, as the leader of the Vanguard squad, how could he watch his comrades fall into danger? Of course, he had to stand up like a man. Whoa, that greatsword, several meters long, made my hands go numb. The Pighead general looked at the small figure in front of him with suspicion. That strike just now had been his full power, he had thought he could eliminate these troublesome fellows. Little runt, take this. Gobta didn't dare to be careless and quickly directed his squad members to respond. Fortunately, they had Frost Wolf mounts, making them very fast, and they didn't dare to directly take on the Pighead general's A-rank skills. Gobta realized that all of the Pighead general's skills enhanced his own power, using terrifying physical strength to crush his enemies. This big guy is hard to chew, high attack and high defense. These attacks don't even tickle him. Gobta looked troubled but ordered the others to use the skill Magic Wolf integration with him. Yes, Captain. Gobuzo and the others lowered their bodies, their magic power connecting with the Frost Wolves to create a magic corridor, their auras constantly merging. Blue light erupted from Gobta and the others' eyes as their bodies transformed into blue liquid, temporarily merging with the Frost Wolves. The Frost Wolves' sizes suddenly increased several times, their eyes also flashing with blue light. Awoo! 8 snow-white, divinely majestic frost giant wolves howled to the sky, the surrounding ground dyed with a layer of icy blue magic power. Haha, why else could we become the Vanguard squad? Isn't it because we were the first goblins to comprehend the Magic Wolf integration skill? Gobta's proud voice came from the mouth of one of the massive frost giant wolves. The Pighead general looked at the 8 snow-white, imposing frost giant wolves in front of him, his expression becoming serious as he suppressed his earlier contempt. He could sense that the magic power aura of each of the 8 frost giant wolves had reached A rank. 8 A rank magical beasts. The Pighead general couldn't afford to underestimate them. What is this skill? It can actually increase their strength so much. Not far away, the Dragonoid, who was recovering her magic power, had her beautiful face filled with shock. She knew that she was the only A-rank Dragonoid in the entire Lizardman tribe. And now, 8 of them had suddenly appeared. She looked at the battlefield not far away, a bitter smile appearing on her lips. It seemed there were more than just these. Awoo! The 8 frost giant wolves leapt out together, each step leaving a crystal of ice on the ground. Frozen Fang, activate. The frost giant wolves flashed and arrived in front of the Pighead general, biting at him from 8 directions, directly injecting icy blue magic power. Ah! The Pighead general roared, intense pain immediately filling his brain. He forcefully grabbed the body of one of the frost giant wolves, tearing off flesh and fur, and throwing it away. Retreat. The other frost giant wolves released their mouths upon hearing the command and began to retreat. This skill's attack power wasn't very high, but this attack wasn't simply for dealing damage. Rather, the Pighead general looked at the wounds where he had been bitten. No blood seeped out, but a layer of frost covered them, and his body began to stiffen. The frost erosion power spreading from the wounds could even freeze the magic power within his body. The Pighead general's body was quickly corroded by the frost, the corroded areas covered in ice crystals. He stood blankly in place, as if he had become an ice sculpture. Icy blue magic power wantonly destroyed his internal organs, freezing all activity. Haha, Captain Gobta, we succeeded. Our Vanguard squad will be the first to achieve merit. One of the frost giant wolves laughed, baring its large mouth. On the Pighead general's face, only half of which remained uncorroded, a look of struggle was revealed, his heart constantly calling out. His heart no longer held the fear of death, but the fear of not being able to answer his king. King, let me borrow your mighty power. I will offer my soul for you to devour. His heart was full of struggle and unwillingness. He had fallen to this point, yet he had not completed the mission given to him by the king. He wanted to do something for the king. It seemed that the king responded to the Pighead general's request. Half of his soul power was devoured by an unknown force, and an evil power erupted within the Pighead general's body. Hunger devour. A devouring power countless times stronger caused the frost and ice crystals on his body to be completely devoured, and then fed back into the Pighead general's body. The brown-black fur turned white, and ice crystal-colored scales grew on his body. Cold resistance, ice attribute defense. The several frost giant wolves opposite looked at each other in disbelief, seeing shock in each other's eyes. Rimuru, who was flying high in the sky, also became tense. The Pighead general, who had been doing well, had his aura strengthened so much, Gobta and the others below were in danger. Great Sage, this Pighead general seems to have devoured ice attribute magic power and become much stronger. Great Sage's eyes were also fixed on the changes in the Pighead general's body below, and she frowned slightly. Indeed, his aura is about to break through the category of A-rank magic power, but this Pighead general's soul power seems to have weakened a lot. The perceptive Great Sage saw something was wrong and continued speaking to Rimuru. He should have sacrificed part of his soul power to the Pighead Lord, thereby obtaining part of his power. Upon hearing this, Rimuru indeed felt the Pighead general's abnormality. If he obtains power in this way, then this Pighead tribe is afraid that it won't live long. I didn't expect the Pighead Lord to have such subordinates. Great Sage nodded and looked at the several frost giant wolves entangled with the Pighead general, using telepathy to notify someone. It seems I have to find Gobta some help. Meanwhile, Gobta's side was already panting from exhaustion. This Pighead general was now completely unafraid of their frost power and was even devouring their magic power. It was simply deadly. But just then, several white threads tightly wrapped around the enemy's body, tightly constricting him and preventing him from moving. Gobta was stunned. Why had the enemy's attack stopped? Curiously looking back, he was pleasantly surprised to see a blue-haired, cold figure, and his face lit up. Sue glanced at Gobta, who had transformed into a frost giant wolf, and tightly pulled on the several threads in his hand. Gobta, what are you still stunned for? Quickly use your skill to destroy him. Oh, only then did Gobta react. Chapter 78, Gobuta's first contribution. Hearing Kang Ying's reminder, Gobuta, who had also reacted, planned to call on his companions to cast that joint magic. A low voice sounded. Open black lens bracket extreme cold black lightning dragon storm close black lens bracket. This was their trump card. Great Granstar had reminded them that this skill should not be used unless it was a critical moment. Isn't this a critical moment now? The ice giant wolf heads transformed by the goblins flashed with amazing lightning, and an ice blue magic circle appeared on the ground, with black lightning falling straight down from the sky. 8 thick black lightning bolts struck the body of the orc general, exploding on the surface of his skin like black snakes dancing wildly. Boom, z's. It was as if the black lightning spear had been sanctioned in place, imprisoned in place by the lightning prison. Following closely behind the black lightning was a huge ice blue magic storm, with traces of black lightning flashing within it. The orc general watched helplessly as this huge ice blue storm surged towards him, but the power of imprisonment on his body prevented him from moving. King. The terrifying destructive power directly tore the orc general's body into pieces, and finally, its momentum undiminished, it smashed towards the orc army behind. Run! The general is dead. This terrifying ice blue storm could be seen by everyone on the entire battlefield. The Dragonoid, who had been observing, was even more shocked and couldn't close her mouth. She couldn't believe that such a large-scale magic was cast by the goblin and frost wolf who had been hiding behind her earlier. As for our great hero, Goba, he was now lying exhausted on the ground, panting. After casting this skill, they released the open black lens bracket magic wolf integration close black lens bracket state due to insufficient magic power. A smile appeared on Kang Ying's cold face as he encouraged Goba on the ground. Goba, well done. Hee, I am a man who has been praised by great Granstar. Of course, it's also thanks to the power bestowed by great Granstar. Goba scratched his head embarrassedly. A flash of surprise flashed in Kang Ying's eyes, and he nodded in agreement. It seems that this old man is late. The battle is already over. An old man in a white robe walked over silently, without a sound, and let out a happy laugh, like a white ghost. This voice. Goba sat up from his lying position with a jolt, looking in the direction of the voice. Ah, why did you old man come here? Walking without a sound is going to scare me to death. Perhaps he was a little carried away, and he blurted out his inner thoughts. And then, the white-robed old man instantly came behind Goba, put one hand on his shoulder, and opened one of his squinted eyes, a flash of scarlet light passing through. You're lying down after only this much. It seems that your usual training is not in place. I must give you extra training when you go back. A ghostly voice sounded from behind Goba, scaring Goba's face black, and his back was even soaked with sweat, his lips trembling. Master, I dare not anymore. This will really kill people. Goba turned his head with difficulty to look at Old Bai. I believe you can do it. Old Bai responded with a terrifying expression and patted Goba on the shoulder. Goba felt dizzy and fell asleep with his head tilted, feeling as if he had been frightened. Young people are good, they fall asleep as soon as they lie down. Old Bai sighed and put Goba on the back of the frost wolf. Awoo! Seeing that the partner on its back had fainted, the frost wolf howled, and the other members of the Vanguard team nodded to Old Bai and Kang Ying, then rode the frost wolf to join the main force. Afterwards, friend over there, how long are you going to keep watching? Old Bai looked faintly in one direction and asked the Dragonoid who had been watching with a smile. Kang Ying also turned his head, crossed his arms, and looked at the Dragonoid, a look of vigilance flashing in his eyes. In fact, Kang Ying had been wary of this Dragonoid since he appeared. He would always be a little wary of unknown people. Seeing that they were being looked at with scrutiny, the Dragonoid walked over generously. After seeing the Dragonoid clearly, a hint of surprise flashed in Old Bai's eyes, and Kang Ying was the same. The Dragonoid slowly approached the two of them, and her blurred figure was finally seen clearly, with golden hair and a beautiful face. However, what surprised the two of them even more was the faint dragon might emanating from the Dragonoid. You are a Lizardman's superior species, a Dragonoid. But your Excellency's aura is a bit strange. May I know how to address your Excellency? Old Bai spoke first. Even with his many years of experience, he couldn't see the strangeness of this Dragonoid. On the contrary, the Dragonoid in front of him didn't care at all about the strange gazes of the two Oni in front of him, but shook her head first. I don't have a name, but I am indeed a Dragonoid. After a pause, she said again. You are the allies that the old leader spoke of. Not bad, you are quite strong. The Dragonoid smiled carelessly. She could feel that the auras of the two people in front of her were as terrifying as an abyss. She was even more curious about this ally. Hearing the Dragonoid's words, Kang Ying and Old Bai exchanged puzzled glances. You are not a named monster yet. Then how did you evolve? The Dragonoid's expression was also dazed, and she scratched her head and said confusedly. I don't know what's going on either. I only remember that my magic power increased very quickly before I fell asleep. But suddenly one day, the magic power in my body suddenly went berserk, and I could only fall into a deep sleep to maintain my life, and when I woke up, I became like this. Old Bai had been observing this Dragonoid and found that she didn't seem to be lying when she spoke. Perhaps this Dragonoid was a unique precedent among the Lizardmen. Haha, since we are allies, then we are friends. Take us to see your Lizardman leader. We have brought potions to restore injuries. The Dragonoid was overjoyed when she heard that there were potions to restore injuries. You must know that the Lizardmen had sacrificed a lot in order to deal with the previous 20,000 strong army, and countless soldiers were injured. She also led Old Bai and Kang Ying into the Lizardman underground palace. In the high sky, Rimuru nudged Granstar and teased him. Have you taken a fancy to this Dragonoid? Old Bai and the others have already started contacting the Lizardmen. This time, we can be considered to have helped them a lot. It shouldn't be too much to ask them for someone. The key is that you have always wanted a dragon as a mount, haven't you? I think there is a chance for this one, and the key is that she is absolutely beautiful. Hee. Granstar looked at the back of the Dragonoid leaving and fell into deep thought. He wouldn't really listen to Rimuru's nonsense. Chapter 79 Soul Collection Successful. However, the blood flowing within this Dragonoid actually possesses the attribute of holy light, which is quite rare. If the Western Church guys knew about this, they'd probably be dumbfounded too. Gulastan revealed an intriguing smile. He was indeed somewhat tempted. He clearly remembered how the Western Church guys loved to define their kind of demon as an evil existence, and their most common method was to use holy magic for physical exorcism. If they and Rimuru were to establish a demon country, they would inevitably be in an antagonistic relationship with the Western Church. Just as Gulastan was pondering, Rimuru suddenly tugged at him. Still saying you're not tempted? Rimuru rolled his eyes, flashing a lewd smile at Gulastan. They've already left, and you're still looking. Gulastan chuckled. Rimuru always liked to tease him, and this kind of personality was truly a headache. Rimuru, I value the dragon bloodline within her, not what you're thinking. Rimuru's smile became even more smug. Gulastan, that's a 60% dragon bloodline concentration. She might really be able to transform into a dragon form, why not just take her as a mount? Hee, I think that sounds pretty good. Gulastan was speechless. Why did Rimuru always bring up mounts? Besides, she wasn't even his subordinate yet, and he was already talking about how to ride her. Seriously, is that even polite? The probability of transforming into a dragon is indeed there, but I still prefer ice attributes, so. However, the more Gulastan explained, the richer Rimuru's expression became. Rimuru, stop laughing. Great Sage, aren't you going to do something about this? Great Sage, hey. Gulastan simply ignored Rimuru and focused on how well the battlefield souls were being collected. Actually, he hadn't just come to the high altitude to chat with Rimuru for no reason, he had released a large magic array above the entire battlefield. The purpose of this magic array was to absorb the souls dissipating on the battlefield, because without the effect of a barrier, the souls dissipated very quickly, and about 20% of the souls would be wasted. But that didn't matter, even if he absorbed 80%, he could still collect tens of thousands of soul units. Of course, he had also invited Rimuru to help with this process, as it would be a bit difficult for Gulastan to complete such a soul-collecting magic array alone, and he needed to borrow the abilities of the Great Sage. Gulastan felt that he should have collected enough, and it should be enough for Overlord to level up. Overlord, how many souls have been collected now? An emotionless mechanical voice sounded. Report, the soul collection magic has successfully collected 18,000 souls. Do you want to extract them? As expected, seeing that the souls had been collected, Gulastan confirmed the extraction without hesitation. Extraction successful. Prompt. Soul power detected, automatically starting to level up. Current level up progress is 92%. A series of prompts sounded in Gulastan's mind, and his face also lit up with joy. Rimuru, who was originally searching for the Pig Lord's shadow, quickly noticed the change in Gulastan's expression and curiously asked. What's wrong? Did you find the Pig Lord? Gulastan shook his head, a joyful smile on his face. There's good news, Overlord is coming back. Rimuru was stunned upon hearing this good news. He knew that Gulastan was different from him, he wasn't naturally reincarnated into this world. Instead, after being teleported to an unknown world, he was reincarnated into Rimuru's world through the Overlord, crossing spatial dimensions. Finally, after the Storm Dragon provided magic power to help Gulastan successfully evolve, it consumed too much energy and fell into a deep sleep, leaving only an empty shell. Gulastan, congratulations. Rimuru was also happy for Gulastan. He had previously asked the Great Sage to analyze it. Gulastan's magic power was several times his, and now he could use the true power of the Overlord. Rimuru thought that he should tease Gulastan less in the future, he couldn't beat him before, and now even more so. The Overlord was a skill that even the Great Sage couldn't analyze, one could imagine how terrifying it was. I might be bullied by you again in the future, it makes me sad just thinking about it. Gulastan shook his head and smiled, it was just that Rimuru had been getting more and more mischievous recently. I just don't know what the new abilities of Overlord after upgrading will be. Is there even a need to say? It's definitely more powerful than my Great Sage, I accidentally said what I was thinking. Great Sage. Rimuru had a bitter look on his face, his Great Sage seemed to be angry and started ignoring him. But Rimuru was a thick-skinned person and began to constantly comfort his skill. Gulastan also saw Rimuru comforting the Great Sage, serves you right. Suddenly, a prompt sounded. Gulanta's expression froze, and a hint of anticipation arose in his heart. Consuming 10,000 soul points, Overlord, level up progress 100%, level up successful. Starting to reload computing power. Loading successful. Intelligent hosting has been cancelled. After waiting for a long time in anticipation, a humanized, gentle female voice sounded in Gulanta's mind. Lord Gulanta, long time no see. This voice was very gentle, and Gulanta was stunned for a moment when he heard this familiar voice. Overlord, it's been quite a while indeed. You've suddenly become so human, I'm still a little unable to adapt. Gulanta didn't expect the first sentence after the Overlord successfully upgraded to be like this, and the tone was much more human than before. Lord Gulanta, this upgrade not only restored all the losses, but also used the power of souls to become a conscious spiritual entity. Conscious spiritual entity. Gulanta didn't expect that his skill could have its own intelligence and consciousness. He knew that his abilities hadn't even awakened yet. Lord Gulanta, let me analyze your status information for you. Gulanta nodded without hesitation. Starting analysis. Life signs are normal. Magic circuit flow is normal. Magic power storage. After a while. Lord Gulanta, I am organizing your skills and creating a skill tree for you. All skills obtained and synthesized in the future will be stored in the skill tree. If that was the case, then he could leave these skills to the Overlord system for management and synthesis in the future. It could also automatically use the abilities of the mutator to synthesize abilities that were useful to Gulanta, without him having to try them one by one. Chapter 80 Pig-Headed Emperor. All ability checks complete. Great Rimuru, you've become much stronger now. I've also organized your skill information for you. Rimuru can now clearly see all his skills at a glance, along with their various classifications. The Lord even provides several skill synthesis plans for him to choose from. However, now is not the time to study skills. He can slowly research them when he has time. Lord, can you help me find the location of the Orc Lord? Rimuru asked tentatively. Yes, great Rimuru. You only need to provide the approximate magic power range of the individual you're looking for, and I can help you filter them out. Upon hearing this, Rimuru realized it was indeed possible. He thought that the Orc Lord should still only be a Demon Lord seed and hadn't yet evolved into a true Demon Lord. Magic power level roughly between a Demon Lord seed and a true Demon Lord. Received. Detecting. No corresponding information within 10 miles. Expanding the search range. Detection successful. A Demon Lord seed aura has been detected 50 miles northwest of the Orc army. The probability of it being the Orc Lord is estimated at 98%. Rimuru didn't expect the Lord to be so efficient. Rimuru's great sage had been searching for a long time without success. He turned to look at Rimuru, who was still trying to please the great sage. Rimuru, I've found the Orc Lord. Rimuru was stunned, then realized that Rimuru's Lord must have exerted its power. So fast. Where is it? Rimuru conveyed the Orc Lord's information to Rimuru telepathically and also notified Benimaru and the others, who had been waiting for a long time. Upon receiving the information from Rimuru in his mind, white flames immediately ignited in Benimaru's eyes. Ice Guardians, let's go. It's our time to shine. HMPH, this one has been waiting for a long time. 2 puffs of cold air immediately billowed out of the Ice Guardian's nostrils, and he slammed his huge ice crystal fists together. The ground immediately shook, and the Orc soldiers who were fighting with the Goblin cavalry could look up and see that snow mountain-like monster moving. Bang! Bang! The Ice Guardian's huge body moved across the battlefield. Although each step covered a great distance, each step crushed many Orc soldiers to death. Not good. The direction that monster is heading in is. Stop him. Several Orc generals rushed out from the army's position and attacked the Ice Guardian's body. However, their attacks only created a few sparks on the Ice Guardian's body, they couldn't even break through his defense. Heh, ants should not block the way. Benimaru's one eye glowed with purplish-black flames, making him look very sinister. He raised his hand, and a small ball of purplish-black fire fell on the Orc general's position. Open black lens bracket Hellflare close black lens bracket. Boom. A huge purplish-black light Jiao Longjiao the enemies, and instantly, raging black flames gushed out from within the light Jiao, like hellfire from hell. Carrying the momentum of destroying everything, it swept across the enemies, incinerating everything in its path, displaying extremely terrifying destructive power and lethality. Benimaru used a group attack skill right from the start. The purplish-black flames, tens of thousands of feet high, almost covered the sky and the sun, sweeping across the ground with the might of burning mountains and boiling seas. Instantly, a large area was cleared. After having no obstacles, the Ice Guardian strode towards a certain location. Ice Guardian, I'll cover you from above. Just keep moving forward. Benimaru's domineering voice came out, revealing incomparable confidence in his tone. A layer of ice armor covered the Ice Guardian's body, so all the attacks, large and small, were nullified. The gale blew across Benimaru's stern face. At this moment, they were like mobile war fortresses. A series of explosions rang out, and black flames hundreds of feet high bloomed on the battlefield, like black flames flowers blooming from hell. Rimuru was completely uneasy at this scene, looking at Rimuru with an incredulous expression. Whoa, is Benimaru this powerful? Rimuru looked at Rimuru with an expression as if he had known it all along. Is there a problem with that? Rimuru looked at Rimuru's calm expression and felt a pain in the ass. Unintentional bragging is the most deadly. This seems to be a combination of my open black lens bracket black flame close black lens bracket skill. I didn't expect Benimaru to have it too. Doesn't that mean you also have my skills? Rimuru nodded noncommittally, then shook his head after thinking about it. Apart from open black lens bracket great sage close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket predator close black lens bracket, I know a little bit of all your skills, but my open black lens bracket Ice Lord close black lens bracket is too domineering, and they've all been changed to ice attribute. In other words, most of Rimuru's skills are ice attribute, and it's hard to say whether it's good or bad. Doesn't that mean Benimaru also has ice attribute skills? I'm envious, pity me. Rimuru looked at Benimaru with glowing eyes, drooling with jealousy. Rimuru nodded to Rimuru. Benimaru did indeed have ice attribute abilities, more accurately, he had some ice, fire, and wind triple attribute skills. He patted Rimuru on the shoulder, comforting Rimuru, who was still staring expectantly. Rimuru, don't be envious. You have me, and that's enough. In an open space northwest of the army, there were more than a dozen B+ grade orc generals guarding a figure. This figure was 5 or 6 meters tall with dark red skin all over his body. His terrifying fangs and a dark red core on his forehead revealed nothing but tyranny and evil. He was the Orc Lord. Why is the soul energy so much less? The Orc Lord roared with white eyes, and his aura immediately spread out, directly knocking down the surrounding trees with powerful wind pressure. Your Majesty, we don't know either. Our soldiers have suffered heavy casualties, and General has also died in battle. An orc general walked tremblingly in front of the Orc Lord, not daring to look directly into his eyes. When the Orc Lord heard that his top general had died in battle, he suddenly fell silent. Silence filled the field for a moment. However, a terrifying sense of hunger filled the Orc Lord's brain, and his rationality gradually disappeared. Hungry, I'm so hungry. He directly grabbed the Orc general in front of him and began to gnaw on his head. The scene suddenly became extremely bloody, but the surrounding Orc generals all knelt beside the Orc Lord without resisting. After devouring the Orc general, the hunger in the Orc Lord's brain subsided a little, and he looked indifferently in one direction. Two guys with different auras were approaching this place, and it seemed that their target was him. Boom, boom, the ground began to tremble. The Orc Lord raised his head in confusion and saw a terrifying ice giant walking towards him. On the shoulders of this ice giant was a Oni wearing a red robe, looking at him with a calm expression. Who? The eyes of both sides instantly met, and two terrifying magic fields unfolded. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.